parameters of their search.
Yes, exactly,
right?
but that's not relevant. This entire line of reasoning is nonsense. The labor value of a prisoner is much lower than the cost of incarceration. And people in correctional facilities do not want people. They want to get rid of everyone in prison.
This is not
true. That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true at all. Why is the prison industrial complex so profitable? Why is it so profitable then?
It's not okay. If you want to understand why private prisons exist, I can explain that. It's very simple. Okay, imagine that you are a state legislator and you have to deal with the fucking budget. Okay, your prisons are at 110% capacity, which is very common in this country, by the way, very fucking common, and you need more prison space. Okay, the cost to make a new prison is $200 million. The cost to rent prison space in a private prison is $20 million. Okay, and you have to make a decision. You can't amortize it over 20 years. You just have to pay the fucking money, and you don't have $200 million. That's why private prisons exist. It's not because it's some
because they're a lower. This is just not true. I'm sorry.
No, but also there's so much fraud that goes into prison. No. Wait. This is like this proven. Wait. Let me tell you why. Because there's so much evidence.
I'm an expert. I'm on a first name basis with the fucking correctional staff of like 5 states.
Okay, but I'm
you
saying
can't tell me like what are you talking about? I know what they want.
Okay, but wait 1 second. Let me tell you what I'm about to say. Is there evidence, yes or no, that a lot of correctional facilities will take in shit tons of money and then not actually fucking spend it on, like, for example, ACs in Texas, where ACs were supposed to cost $25 million or something like that to set up ACs, and none of that was actually shown in the prison in one of the prisons in Texas.
I'm sure that there are instances where fucked up things happen. The thing people bring up with the California wildfire shit is an instance of a fucked up thing happening. The fact that one fucked up thing happened does not mean that that's why the entire system exists as it does.
No, but I'm saying that
people aren't locked up so that Texas can skim money off.
There's a reason why people invest in prisons. There's money to be made off doing that shit because they cut a lot of fucking costs.
So hold on, what they do?
Hold on. These are descriptive facts. Okay, these are facts. It's about a $200 billion industry. What do you think that the profit of the private prison industry is? $200 billion industry. How much money do private prisons profit per year?
That's okay.
It's not really.
Just guess.
I don't know.
If it's $0, of course it's relevant.
The thing is, there's a lot of companies with zero profit. That's not necessarily no one's getting paid.
And also, it doesn't mean that people aren't profiting under the table. Like, your country's fraudulent as shit. Like there's so much fucking fraud that occurs under the table. Like
okay, this is the problem, is that I know factually that you're wrong, and you're just basically saying, oh yeah, well, your country is a fucking shithole. So
No, I'm not saying your country's a fucking shithole, but I'm saying that there's been a lot of fraud in the prison industrial complex, like recurring, repeated patterns of fraud, right? Like,
can you give me an example?
Yeah, I can give you all of the examples in the prisons that are overheating right now are in cases of fraud, because all of those prisons have made actual loans, has gotten so much money to put the money into actually making ACs that actually work in prisons, and that none of that has actually ever been done, and all the money just disappears.
So
wait, are you talking about the thing that got passed this year that hasn't been done because it's like
I'm not talking about a policy. I'm not talking about a policy. I'm talking about actual prisons like that.
But I want sources. I don't want somebody who doesn't live in this country and knows nothing about corrections just spouting off bullshit. Okay, I want a source.
Yeah, I'll source you now. Just give me a sec.
So I already have a Brookings Institute study pulled up, along with where they're quoting multiple GAO, the Government Accountability Office studies, indicating that private prisons are not more or at least there's not significant evidence to demonstrate that they're more cost efficient than. I
didn't say they were cost efficient. I said the reason that they exist is because the prisons are overloaded. Like, the reason private prisons exist is because of the fucking drug war. That's the reason they exist. Because we have too many prisoners and they don't have anywhere to put them. And like I said, the cost of building a prison is a lot of fucking money. And the way the state budget works, they can't just come up with $200 million. I mean, they already don't have enough money. If they're faced with building a new prison, because I've talked, it's like a serious problem. It's like, where the fuck do we find $200 million? And they just can't. They can't. They physically can't. That's why private prisons exist. Because a company will build a private prison and then rent out the prison space to the state. Okay, and I'm not just completely defending them. Private prisons suck. They shouldn't fucking exist. The drug war needs to goddamn end. These facilities are fucking dog shit, and like, there's fucking human rights violations. I'm not discounting any of that, but this doesn't mean that they go lock people up for slave labor. That's completely wrong.
We're not defending that claim, but like it is profitable.
That's the claim that I made. It's not profitable.
All right, we'll tell you what. Give me the quote for that, and we'll even check that one. So we already got you wrong on one quote that you're trying to like.
I'm not wrong on that quote.
Sure. I mean, you disagree, and like multiple people here now watch what you said in context. After everyone gave you a fair bit of charity here and said, like, we don't think you're being too fair on that one. At the best, I think it's fairly uncharitable. Yeah, sure. I mean, you're allowed to disagree with me, and that's totally.
I think that 95% of his audience watched that and came away thinking that felons can't vote, and that's a lie.
They probably think felons can't vote in the South, and I think that's true enough.
I think that's what I took away. They were clearly talking about the South, so I think that without mentioning the word South in your argument, it felt like, oh, there's this. You're kind of digging through a little bit. If you include that word, I would have been on board.
All right, well, give me 1 second. I'm going to get the exact timestamp.
Because I think that he
muted in defense. Okay. So hold on. The issue I have with this dude is like he's bitching at Vaush for like being like really hyperbolic, and that's exactly what he's doing.
That's the timestamp we need.
What's up?
So
it was 31:28 to 31:45. We'll have you that in context, or I guess actually 55 probably.
I mean, just be honest. Okay, let's just move on from that quote.
I found the source. Sure. I found a source here that says, among the items discussed in this framework are public perceptions of crime and punishment, the production of prisoners in a capitalist system, the encouragement of excessive incarceration, producing financial and ideological dividends for the state as well as the private sector. That is in a source that I can give you.
I mean, I have a lot of sources to defend. Like what that just sounded like defended me, but like let me.
No. The public misperceptions of crime and punishment are detached from what. It's not an umbrella term of all of the previous things that I mentioned. It's separate. Like these are all different parts of the.
Give me your. I can't really understand what you're saying. Like, give me your link. I'll read it.
Okay.
Like I'll give you guys the best source for this. It's a website called prisonpolicy.org that has exceedingly well-sourced documents. Let me go get this report.
Oh, hold on, I actually didn't read this Cornell blog, but I'll link it anyway because I think it says the point I'm making as well. It's like
I mean, like this one, if you disagree with my interpretation of this quote that I just put, I'm gonna quit because it's like the most. He just says, like, we started the drug war to lock everyone up for slave labor, and that's what he says. So go ahead and watch that, and then we can move on to the next one.
I mean, he's definitely a hyperbolic person, so let's check it out. Where'd you link it?
It's in voice chat for typers. 4540 on the link.
Gotcha. You said 4545. Whoopsies.
4540. It's right below the thing.
Gotcha.
I didn't actually hardcode the timestamps because it's too much goddamn work.
That's fine. You can just control F the transcript to figure it out anyway. Oh, never mind. I understood what you meant. No, don't worry about it. Okay, let's go back to do it at 45.
Yeah, exactly. But
am I streaming this?
Orwellian nightmare. It's
yeah,
great.
Exactly. But with regards to the decrease in crime, I think that could also be attributed largely to a decrease in lead paint being used in underserved communities, which has been lead paint exposure.
This link looks to be debunking the idea
shown
that
to
massively
increase like the rate of criminality because it poisons your brain. But also,
the
crime uptick was because of the drug war, which was a completely unnecessary political bent to begin with. Almost like they created a problem that they knew would disproportionately affect like black communities, and then introduced mass incarceration, which they get to conveniently extract slave labor from, as a solution to that problem. I'm not convinced that police are the cause or solution to that problem. I think the state was the cause of it, and the state now presents itself as the only solution, when in reality, abolishing the war on drugs probably would have had a much better impact on general crime.
Right, so what was your exact claim on this? Because it seemed like he was just saying that they manufactured. He's giving you the what's it called, the new Jim Crow argument, basically.
Yeah, and it's wrong.
Do you think the new Jim Crow is wrong?
The idea that mass incarceration exists to extract slave labor, and that's why we have the drug war.
So
is
he's
the
being a
effective
little
war.
flippant there, but that's not the only point he's making there. It's like multiple things, and he like shoves that in there to just kind of be. I get a little cheeky, and it's not.
Okay,
it's
so
largely
he
incorrect,
just kind of snuck in there like a complete lie that's completely misrepresentative in a field in which he claims the highest degree of expertise. Yeah, okay.
I mean, he claims to have a bachelor's degree in sociology. I don't think that's claiming to have the highest degree of whatever.
Okay, it isn't, but he acts like he is. He talks about criminal justice as though he has absolute knowledge of it. Every time he talks about anything except for vocational programs.
Well, sure, that's called being like a public speaker, or being an effective communicator. If you want people to believe you, you speak with confidence. Actually, literally the exact thing that you're doing here, to be honest.
Yes.
Like, how your post on the Destiny subreddit got like 250 upvotes? That's because like you looked really authoritative. You came with timestamps, right? And a whole bunch of idiots just look at that and they see like, oh, this guy put a lot of effort in. He's probably right, and he's saying like hate Vaush, and we hate Vaush here. Therefore, you get upvotes. Because you just did an authoritative thing.
That's interesting. So what's your point?
And you could be right. Like you could be right, but I'm saying like a whole bunch of idiots just look at the.
You're partially right. Like it's
no, I'm
not
100% right.
You're like really digging in what we've seen so far. Like,
really digging? What are you guys talking about?
I mean,
we started. Okay, he said.
No, you're not really digging.
Losing my mind.
Not really digging, but it's just like you're making such a big deal.
You're making like a mountain out of a molehill is the expression.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're on American, Zayon, as he's pointed out multiple times. I'll be here. I got your what are those things called? Idioms.
I don't understand.
Idiom game on point here.
He says we started the drug war to lock people up for slave labor. I just don't understand.
No, that's not what he said.
He didn't say that. He said which conveniently.
He said like which conveniently. Yeah. So he's being like flippant, like, oh, it also did all these things, right? So he's giving the narrative of like, oh, we criminalized drugs. It allowed us to lock up this black and brown population and then put them back into like fucking bondage, basically, where they can't vote and do stuff. And then also conveniently like labor, right? So he's like stacking that argument of all these different things it does. Does that mean they're all slave labor? No. Does it mean some of them are making license plates for like 3 cents an hour?
And it doesn't mean that they thought of slave labor at the beginning. He's just saying that like this happened, which then resulted in a lot of people being mass incarcerated. And then due to the mass incarceration, people thought, well, maybe this might be a good idea because we have so many fucking prisoners to start making them work, and then we could make profit over the labor.
No, okay. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna explain prison labor. Okay, after I'm done, everyone will understand why prison labor exists. Okay, prisons are like cities. Okay, almost 100% of prison labor is just making the city run. Okay, they're janitors and they're cooks. They work in the warden's office. They work in the canteen. Almost everyone, almost 100% of prison labor is making sure that the prison functions. It's not making license plates and like selling shit to companies. That's bullshit. That's the reason I'm upset about this, is because everyone thinks this. It's like prisoners are like I don't know, like they're like farmed out to Apple or something, and they're like building iPhones or something.
Hold on. So what you're saying isn't true. So right, they were literally like, I think it was people in prison who were making like not robocalls, but calls for
yes.
What's his name?
Like
Michael
I said,
Bloomberg.
this happens.
Okay.
Yes, this happens occasionally, and it's like a very small number of people. As I'm sure you realize, there are a very large number of people incarcerated, and this will happen with the fucking California wildfire thing was like 100 people or something, and people act like it's the entire prison system. I agree that that's fucked, but you don't generalize one fucking bad thing that happened to the entire system. Like, and again, there's problems with prison labor. If you want me to go into the problems with prison labor, I'm happy to do it. It's not that they're making license plates. Like,
are they making roads? And like, yeah, I've heard that I've seen like articles that show that that they're making roads, that they're like actual like
again, but you have no sense of scale. Okay, here's what happens. A bad thing happens one time, and then you hear a bad thing happened, and then you generalize that bad thing is what all prison labor is. That's just not how it works.
So they have over 2,000 inmates who are Fireline qualified, not 100.
Okay, how many inmates are there in California? Let's go check. CDCR inmate population.
Probably a lot. There are about 2 million people incarcerated in the United States right now. California is like, what, 15-18% of our population? They probably have an above average incarceration rate, if I had to guess.
Okay, so that's the point. If we're talking about like if you're talking about 2 million people, you don't talk about 2,000 people as though that's what's going on with the 2 million people.
You can't just pretend you're like the numbers dude, and then you're off by like a scale of like 21 times higher than
Oh my god. Do you disagree with my general point?
Yeah, I sort of do, because you were trying to like downplay as like they're only serving essential functions to keep the place running.
What percentage of prisoners are being used to make money for companies? Give me a number. Rough number.
Well, I don't care if they're making money for companies. So
That's
I think
the whole argument.
So I don't give a shit.
Wait,
that's what I'm objecting to.
So I already said I think that characterization by Vaush as them just being like slave labor. It's like I've actually had an argument. That guy he's arguing with his counterpoints, who I'm friends with, and I've had this argument with him before too. But like I don't think it's morally justifiable to force prison inmates to work for like sub minimum wages to keep a prison running. You want to run a prison?
That's not the point that I made.
Sure, but I think like to maintain your things, and you force prisoners to work.
This is really crazy to me. That I have a quote where Vaush literally like he just says something. It's wrong. It's just there's very close to zero truth in it, and it's reinforcing a falsehood that's nearly universally believed. And then you guys are like, yeah, but it happened one time. Like there's like 2,000 people.
Okay,
there's
so
how do you not?
Do you
I believe that
my issue is you can apply this level of scrutiny to like any politician. Like if you went to listen to a Bernie Sanders rally, you'd just be sitting there fuming like the rich, they're paying their fair share. You know, their fair share is whatever the tax rate allows them to get away with legally speaking. You know,
but also wait. So if numbers guy, what is the number of external prisoners that don't work to run the prison? Yeah. What is that number in the U.S.?
I would be willing to entertain that there's a reasonably large number that like work to like basically do stuff for the state, like cleaning up trash on highways and shit.
No. I don't mean that. That's not community. That's community service. I'm talking building roads, doing shit for private, like the private sector.
Very small number. Very small number. Like
doesn't work assignments.
I have a quote from NPR that says Unicor employs 17,000 people, and it brings in 500 million annually for them.
Is it?
It's in voice chat. So that's Unicor, which is
500
because they're not paying wages. Bro.
Sometimes they do, but it's like
it's like 20 cents an hour. It's 20 cents an hour.
Yeah, I have the Unicor pay scale. At grade 5, you get 23 cents an hour, but at grade 1, the highest pay grade.
Okay, so they're extracting $30,000 a year per prisoner. What? Where is this link?
I just put in the quote.
To be clear, I don't know.
Yeah,
super in depth on this.
I haven't. Yeah, this is not my. I didn't study for this or anything. I'm just googling because I was just curious what it is. You know, I don't know. I think the profitability is not what's important here for Vaush's point, though. Vaush's point is
point is objectively wrong. People don't get locked up for slave labor. The cost of incarceration is twice the labor value of an inmate.
He listed like 6 things there, and you're cherry picking one thing that was sort of flippant, and it's like, well, do we make them do labor for like sub-living wages? Yeah. Is it like convict leasing? No, it's not convict leasing like we had from like 1867 to fucking 1945 or whatever.
I mean, you're like, okay. I mean, this is getting into the territory where I'm like, this is just bad faith, and I'm almost not interested in considering. Like, your level of twisting what he said is actually insane. He just told a lie.
Well, like, why do you think most people here
very nearly zero? Like, I don't know, and I don't care. It's not interesting to me. Well, I heard what he said.
How do you assess if you're the crazy one or we're the crazy ones? Like, what tells you that?
I know the facts.
Okay, wait.
True.
I mean, like
it isn't factually true.
Wait.
There's not a binary here, though. That's the problem.
One second. In just 2006, the largest prison in the U.S. profited $2.3 million in what? Just 3 months.
Yes. Give me a link because I'm
giving you this. I'm giving you a link right now.
I got a question. Doomer, I got a question. The whole purpose of this manifesto is to build a set of video essays talking about Vaush, right?
It's one, but yeah.
Right. Well, okay, so some amount of content like that. You're building a script, right?
Yeah.
Voice chat, but for typers, I posted that link there.
Yeah. Okay, so you're confused right now by a bunch of people that are going to watch that video, saying we're not convinced by the way you're presenting your argument. Okay, so
I'm not reading.
No, I know. But if you're confused by our reaction to this, like, what do you think your video is going to do?
Like, you're in a place that's not going to be particularly friendly to Vaush, right? This is Booksmarts community. I imagine most people here are probably more like Destiny fans, and as a result, they're probably not super friendly to Vaush. But
right. So,
like, I don't really.
Yeah, me too. Like, there's something about Vaush that hurts.
Wait. Here, let me finish my point. So the whether or not you're right isn't the information you should be getting out of the conversation you're having right now.
I mean, okay, you want to know why I think you guys are taking objection to this? Because you believe the lie that he's telling, and you're defending it.
Sure.
I'm reading these links. They don't support your argument.
Dude, I understand that's what you think. But if you want your video to land, you have to overcome that.
Yeah, that's why I'm writing a script and not like
I
having
think
a
you have to
conversation where
that
people fucking yell at me.
Well, I mean,
Correct.
I think that you're digging.
But you're saying that there's no profit, and that's just a lie. That's just an abject lie.
No. Again, you don't understand my point. He said that people are locked up with the intention of extracting slave labor. That is not true because the cost of incarceration is considerably higher than the amount of labor value they can extract from an inmate. Even if every single prisoner.
But what about the private prison?
But because you're making like an economical mistake in saying that you're referring to the cost of the prisoner versus all of the ways that they can make profit. This is just one of the ways. So you're can you give me a ballpark figure of how much it costs to incarcerate a person on average? Because these figures are dog shit, but I just want to know, what do you think it is? Probably like per year or per month?
Yeah, per year.
Okay, per year, I would say like maybe $30,000 to $50,000.
Okay, how much would these people make on average if they were out in the free world?
What's
an able-bodied person?
What's like the minimum wage for yearly?
Minimum, it's like in the neighborhood of 27,000 a year.
Well, it's like 50. We'll just say like, sure, whatever. The federal minimum wage is like $7.25 or whatever an hour. Right?
It's really low. Yeah,
or
it's
wait,
like,
hold on, it might be higher.
25.
Than that.
I think it's like 25.
Okay, but like yeah. Anyway, so let's say like $30,000 as well.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly walk through this. Okay, first of all, a lot of people in prison are disabled and have problems and can't work. They don't have prison jobs. Okay, that's a lot of fucking people, and that is a problem. I don't want those people locked up. But okay, this contributes to the cost of incarceration. Okay, so moving beyond that. Okay, you can't just like if prisoners didn't do jobs in prisons, then the cost of incarceration would be dramatically increased. The reason they don't get paid is because it couldn't exist if the prisoners weren't running the prison. Like that's just how prisons work.
No, hold on. It's not innately how prisons have to work. I mean, there are prisons work now.
Economically, it is. I mean, again, if the cost of incarceration, by the way, $30,000 is a fucking lowball estimate. But we can go with $30,000. Okay,
if the cost of
incarceration is $30,000,
that's the definition of slave labor. Like he's not going to that's what he's trying to say.
Okay, if the cost of incarceration is $30,000 a year, and we're currently paying them nothing, then paying them federal minimum wage would double the cost of incarceration.
No, it doesn't matter to Vaush's point.
But also the private prisons.
I don't agree with Vaush's point, but Vaush is saying that that's the definition of slave labor.
But then the prison will get paid. The prison will get paid $5 million to pave a road, and pay that, and just
okay. Stop.
So keep in mind, private prisons are also just being compensated just for the they have
as
like
well. Yeah, they have hella government grants.
Yeah, so like they're guaranteed a capacity when you open up like a private prison. They'll get like a whatever year contract. Let's just say a 20-year contract, and they'll just guarantee them a capacity number. So like it even incentivizes the government to lock people up to like utilize that capacity or move that capacity over there.
No. Like Doomer's not wrong. Vaush just defines that as slave labor. It's
you're also like focusing on that, and you're not looking at the whole picture.
If the claim was prisoners are kind of treated like slaves, I wouldn't be upset about it. I'm upset about the idea that the reason that people are locked up in the first place is because the state makes money from locking them up, which is objectively not true.
Do you think things can be? Wait, hold on. Let me ask one question. Do you think things can be true enough?
That's not objectively not true. That's not objectively not true. Is it really hard to think that Hillary Clinton, before or directly after or during the crime bill, when that was introduced that started the mass incarceration, why did she and like that family put fucking money in the prison industrial complex to make a profit out of it because they knew that this would be I would be able to make a profit out of it.
Okay, please tell me you understand this. That it can be possible that there is a reason to invest in private prisons, and at the same time, it doesn't make sense to lock someone up new because the cost of incarcerating them is greater than their labor value. You understand? There's no contradiction there.
But
the fact that private prisons exist,
but you're saying their labor value. You're changing the labor value from a regular human versus one that isn't paying bills and that isn't getting wages and that's just. It's pure profit. Like it's pure fucking profit.
Okay.
So
well, I don't know how to respond to this. You guys are just so wrong.
Wait, hold on. It costs the government money, right? Because the government's the one paying for that cost of incarceration to the private industry. The private company that's running the prison company is making money.
Mr. Big Value, thank you, Mr. Big Value, because that sounds about right to me. The cost of incarceration in California is $80,000 a year per inmate.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh yeah, let's go fucking lock them up for slave labor.
Are you fucking? You're not listening, Doomer. Okay, so
you're not listening. That was my only point. That was my only. That's the entire reason we're here.
Your point there is stupid, and you're not understanding like how these dynamics even work. Like the private companies who do this, like on the government's end, it doesn't make sense. The government doesn't care about being profitable. They care about like doing whatever their assigned function is because it's a bureaucratic state. A private for-profit prison or whatever, they care about like they're getting money either way, right? They're getting paid for the inmates that they're maintaining. They're cutting off on labor costs.
What level of influence? What level of influence do you think the private prisons have on correctional policy?
They have enough. Like they do. They have a significant lobby.
What do you mean enough?
Okay, so they regularly lobby against like drug reform laws because you have towns who are entirely propped up around like prison industry shit. So the people who work for those prisons, this is the case.
Okay, I'm about to Google it. What do you think the amount of money that's spent per year on lobbying for private prisons influence correctional policy? Because you're saying
it doesn't need to be a
you're
lot.
doing this insane equivocation. You're saying that there is a non-zero amount of lobbying from private prisons, and therefore the entire fucking correctional system is driven by lobbying from private prisons.
That is
it's insane.
Not what I
I know it's not true because I've worked with these people. I know what they do and why they do it. This is not why they do it.
Then how come when states turn to privatize prisons, there's always, in every state that has more privatized prisons, there's always more inmates, longer sentences. I can give you the study right now.
Yeah, okay, give me the study.
There's probably a different correlation with that, but
would you agree that the private prison has an incentive of lobbying for these things? Because they make profit from it?
Yeah, there's obviously an incentive, but it's just like they are a small drop in the bucket.
This is just so funny.
They're 8%, 8.1%.
Hey, does anyone remember Trump's chief of staff, the military guy? What was his name? Not McMaster. It's the
you're claiming expertise in a field and then laughing at me for saying things that are like objective, like descriptively true. Like you can just go look it up.
It's not like you're just like, listen, it costs $80,000, right? And these people are only make $30,000. So like, there's no way that this makes sense. It's like, well, yeah, if you're looking at them as like a company, but like it's a private company who's getting paid for the inmates and then generating value on their labor too. They're getting it both ways. They're milking the government and they're milking the.
This is so fucking stupid.
But they're getting most of their money. They're getting most of their money.
The private prisons
proven wrong and
private prisons don't go lock people up. The private prisons don't go lock people up.
But they incentivize. They lobby for more. I just look at the link I sent you. Like, look, using instrumental variable regressions on state and individual data from 1989 to 2008, we found evidence showing a rise in private prisons beds per capita increases the number of incarcerated individuals.
Stop reading an article. I'm going to find the actual source of this because every time I go look into these claims,
this is the abstract. This is the abstract.
Don't give a fuck about the abstract. I'm going to go look at the actual article.
This was written by the fucking
These things lie all the fucking time. These lie all the fucking time. These fucking things lie.
If Vaush was talking just about private prisons, would you say that would be correct?
If private prisons actually had like a meaningful impact on correctional policy, then yeah, but they don't.
They're 8.1% of all the people. So I think that this is my goal is actually to just think about how to make it so this lands. Because I actually don't care. I don't really invest in Vaush or any of these people. So to me, I think if you were to say that, that would nail them more.
So
right, you know what I mean. But you need to address that they would be right if they were talking about private prisons, but the way that they're wording it now implies to their giant audience that it's all prisons and that, you know, the state's incentivized to do it this way and da-da-da.
You could say it could be more nuanced, and like I guess that would be a fair criticism. I mean, you can always be more nuanced, but it's just calling him like this is a fucking liar. He's causing sarcastic terrorism. It's just such an extreme claim compared to like the evidence you're bringing to bear.
It's an extreme claim.
So hold on, just to deal with your wait,
why did Kenosha
oh
happen?
God.
Why did Kenosha happen? Why did the Kenosha riots happen?
Because Vaush is a YouTuber with supreme influence.
No. A serious answer. Why did the Kenosha riots happen?
Because what's his name got murdered? Freddie.
Yeah, because there's an extreme level of anti-police sentiment in the zeitgeist, and when people see a black person get shot, they instantly assume that it's a fucking lynching. Okay, that's why the Kenosha riots happened. Okay, who contributes to that?
The cops by constantly killing black people. Hey.
Okay.
No,
I won't lie.
I'm going to fucking skewer you. Okay? Yeah. You need to back off those fucking claims, dude.
What? You're not gonna skewer this shit, buddy. I definitely know more about this topic than you.
You know nothing about this topic.
I'll wave.
You were saying dumb shit.
I'll wave my master's degree right in front of the webcam if you want. It'll say Masters in Criminal Justice right in front of there.
I go to the ASC conferences. There's so many fucking people with PhDs that are fucking morons and don't know anything about this and don't actually give a fuck about influencing correctional policy.
I'm talking to one of them right now. It's really a shame.
Yeah.
The answer is BL.
Listen, we can go back to being civil. Anyway, the point I wanted to make real quick, and then we'll go back to talking about Kenosha. Okay, was John Kelly was Trump's chief of staff, who was in charge of the immigration policy about locking up, child separation, all that shit, which was contracted to a company that he worked for, and then once he left being chief of staff, he went back to that company and got a huge bonus. So it's like. Yeah, he went back there and got millions of dollars in bonuses after awarding contracts to a company he formerly worked for to give these private prison contracts to handle migrants. I feel like this lobby or like this group is non-influential is just beyond delusional, and like I just don't even know what to say to that.
Again, this is serious equivocation. Okay, I'm not saying there is no corruption.
That is a significant degree of corruption.
Let me talk. Okay, I'm not saying there is no corruption, but you're saying that the reason that we have the drug war is because private prisons want to lock people up.
No, that is not. No, that's not what we're saying. No one made that claim. Nope.
Then why are you arguing? That's the only point that I made.
So, what, dude? Your position has changed. The point that you initially made was that the only reason we lock people up is to make them slaves again or something, or make them use slave labor.
That's the exact mechanism you're talking about. You're saying that the private prisons influence correctional policy.
That's like a fringe ancillary benefit that does exist, but is not the overarching reason. As I said,
even
we're no longer in the era of convict leasing.
But even if the private prisons didn't influence government, if people in government or people working in that sector saw the opportunity to make money from it by doing this or by a policy that happened, then they're like not just allowing it, they're profiting from it. Like so it's I don't know, like it's like the drug war. I agree with you that it's not like connected maybe, but people profited off those policies in a way that makes it connected.
Like again, we keep going from like abstract things that I would 100% agree with to these broad claims that are just they aren't true and are ridiculous. So like if you want to say like private prisons are bullshit, the drug war is bullshit, we need to completely fucking rework the entire fucking criminal justice system. Okay, we need to rework police. I could go down the fucking line. I agree with all of this shit. That doesn't mean that like there's any sense at all in the idea that we lock people up for slave labor. That just doesn't happen.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's like, not. Then we're not I think doing you could probably.
I think it's like better to like maybe try and talk to Vaush about this rather than like actually like making like all this hit piece about it, because it just doesn't make sense like why it's enough to.
You think Vaush would respond to criticism well? Should I show you how he responds to criticism?
I think he would mock you much harder than any of us did here. Because honestly, I've just been trying to be nice about it for the most part.
You've been trying to be okay, yeah.
I can be a way bigger asshole. Trust me. Like I'm being pretty nice. I have to be quiet because someone's sleeping in the other room. I'm also tired because I just got off a 12-hour shift at work, and I'm just here kind of bullshitting, and I'm having an okay time. But I'm not going super hard here or anything, but like you're not making particularly persuasive points. And I think you like keep jumping to like these extremes and like saying things that like we're not saying. So I'm not telling. Like I've said it multiple times.
I'm saying here is a clip of Vaush saying something, and then I'm saying that thing that he said is not true, and then I show you he claims expertise in this domain. He consistently makes this claim that is provably not true, and I don't understand how you don't make the connection. What can you just fucking admit? He fucking lied.
Do you think truth is like a binary?
Oh my fucking god! What are we like? Is this dairy dot what?
Well,
you made a claim that's not true. Like, what do you?
I think it was true enough in context, and like he could have substantiated it. When I say that, and I will substantiate it. I know it sounds like a weird thing to say. Is truth a binary? I mean, the answer is technically yes, right? But when you're conveying an idea, right, you only have so many words, right? When you go to like a lecture or something, like you said, you've been to conferences. When you go to a lecture and like you have this fucking nerd going into explicit detail about a really niche topic that they're super really into, like that's great. But when you're trying to communicate to an audience who doesn't care about this, you're always going to take shortcuts. To like convey an idea, and those shortcuts can. You want a very simple. These shortcuts fundamentally involve you leaving out pertinent details.
You want to talk about pertinent details. Okay, the fucking study that just got linked. This is why I read studies. It suggests an increase of 37 times 2 prisoners in the entire fucking country. 74. That's how many. They're speculating an increase of 74 prisoners in the whole country, and you're acting like, oh yeah, the fucking private prisons. I mean, we don't even know if that result is right.
I don't even know what we're talking about right now.
Like, which link? I got linked to source. I don't the fucking what is this paper called?
The WSU one.
Do private-owned prisons increase incarceration rates? This is why you have to read studies. You can't just read the abstract. The abstract is purposefully incendiary. It says it says what it says isn't technically wrong. It's just an enormous exaggeration. You have to go read the fucking article.
So I watched that Vaush clip again. I think that if you could actually separate out private prisons entirely from that.
Well, yeah, it's not a private prison thing. He's making a point.
Right. I think that if you isolate out and you say yes, private prisons are profitable and they do extract labor from people, but they only represent 8%, whereas the state has a negative thing, and that they're losing money on it and they're not extracting slave labor, then that would be, I think, a fair way of criticizing them.
That's basically what I'm saying.
Right. I just think that like the way that it's just like the way that the tone is and like how the aggression is makes it so like people want like a killer answer immediately.
My tone right now is pretty agitated because there's a bunch of people kind of yelling at me. But in the video,
I understand that completely.
I'm trying so hard.
Well, I'm trying not to.
So hard to be
hot. So
I think I can 100% appreciate.
Wait, and I have to clarify something. You said you read the study and it led to an increase of 178 prisoners a year.
I think it said.
So it's 178 new prisoners per million population per year, meaning 60,000 more prisoners a year. Not 178.
How many million prisoners are there?
Well, that's I'm pretty sure it's per population of the whole country. I'd be very surprised if that's per million prisoners. That would be a really
per population of the whole country. Hold on. You actually might be right. I mean, I don't know why they would word it that way.
Listen, it's fine. I don't care. I'm not going to harp on you on that because it's really not that big of a deal. And you're trying to read it while talking to people. Like I'm not going to like nail you with that. I just wanted to correct it here. You know, got to correct the record. Make sure you're being as accurate as possible. It's not 178 people.
Why would they say it per capita? That's really weird. Are you sure?
Well, it says the study found that private prisons lead to an average increase of 178 new prisoners per million population per year, at an average cost of $60 per day per prisoner. That cost states between 1.9 and 10.6 million per year.
I think they would have said prison population if they were.
Yeah, they're definitely doing that.
That's a weird way to. Okay.
I don't blame you. You glossed over it quickly. It's no big deal.
Yeah, no, like I haven't actually written this. This is the last section. The other sections I've had to like spend fucking days going through studies and researching shit.
Yeah, it's fine. Like I said, I wouldn't expect you to just read and synthesize a whole study while in the middle of arguing with like 3 people.
I'm gonna also throw something on here real quick, which is that do they reiterate this point over and over again in other clips about this stat, about this slave labor thing, or is it just in this like 1 second bubble within that debate one time?
So the context Okay, so I'll just sort of lay out basically the way that this section is going to play out. Okay, I'm gonna say that if we want to be as charitable as possible, we would want to check his claims about the area where he claims the most expertise. And criminal justice, specifically prisons, is the area where he claims the most expertise. Okay, so I wanted to go through and again, I'm trying to be as good faith as possible. I begin by talking about the claim that he makes that's 100% right. Okay, and I'm just trying to go through and look at every claim I can find that he makes about criminal justice. And all but one of them are wrong. Now you can say, oh, well, he's being a little bit hyperbolic. Oh, well, that's not exactly what he meant. Okay, but it doesn't really change the fact that every single time he talks about the area in which he claims the most expertise, what he's saying is wrong.
I agree. That's fucked up, but I just think coming at it from like you can I think what you should think about maybe is like how would you want Vaush to react to this? Like if he were to actually see it. Like would you want him to be like, "Oh, there's someone making constructive criticism and like maybe this will help?" He could fare, even if it is very charitable, he could react like, "Oh my god, fuck this."
Well, I don't
make a video
Okay, like, I've never seen him take criticism well. I haven't seen it a single time.
I think at the end,
how he's going to react.
I think at the end, Book eventually got him to relax a little bit more.
Was that the Isaac one?
Yeah, but it was at the very end.
Yeah, I only watched like 20 minutes.
Oh wait, did he talk?
Yeah,
to,
the beginning was a mess.
When did Vaush talk to Booksmarts?
Not too long ago.
It was like right after the PCRF stream. I think it was like a couple days after that.
It was about Vaush lying. That whole video stuff. Yeah, you can find it if you Google for it.
Oh yeah.
But they do seem defensive immediately, so I wouldn't necessarily think it's a bad video if they come at it defensively at first, of course.
No, like
right?
the video opens sucking his dick, like a lot less than I expected to, because I've actually watched his videos and it's kind of disgusting how much he lies. But like the video opens on me trying to be as nice as possible, and like defending him against what I perceive to be really unfair criticism. So like. One of the things that I think is kind of fucked up is he gets called a grifter a lot. I'm 100% sure he's not a grifter. No. I know for a fact he believes.
Of course he's not a grifter.
Well, let's say I made the claim that like Republicans don't want black people to vote. Now, would you think is that a lie or what is that?
That's not a lie, but it's a gross exaggeration and it's a misrepresentation of the polls, like really badly. I mean, like that's supporting the general dehumanizing idea that Republicans are a bunch of racists, and the polls just don't support that at all.
Oh, sorry. I usually specify Republican politicians don't want black people to vote.
Oh, Republican politicians 100% don't want black people to vote.
I try and like reserve my animosity for like politicians, and like I think that most people are just fucking idiots going with the flow.
My only issue with that claim is that like there's an implication that it's because of interpersonal racism, but it's just like politicians are always going to try and disenfranchise people who won't vote for them. Like it's not like Democrats don't gerrymander in their favor.
No. This is. Oh man. Okay. Well, now you triggered me. Good job. This is not true. Democrats do not gerrymander anywhere near as much as Republicans do. This is it's not.
Yeah, let's check.
Literally a false equivalence. Sure, you can look at.
I didn't say it's the same. It's just like it's. I mean, I'm saying it's not motivated by interpersonal racism. It's motivated by.
That's like hey, well, you shoved me, and I pulled out like an AK-47 and blew you away. But like we both use violence there, you know, like that like to me that's what we're seeing here, you know.
I don't have stats, so I'll check and see.
Sure. So in the upcoming redistricting cycle, I think Democrats control the districting on like 40 or 60 seats or something, and Republicans have control of like redistricting on 180 seats, because when Democrats get control, they do nonpartisan districting commissions a lot. Like California has one. I don't remember what other states. I think Illinois has one. Or wait, hold on. I think they were gonna get one, and their governor's like, yeah, fuck that. But like most Democratic control, not most, but basically Republicans control redistricting in a lot more places, and they tend to gerrymander a lot harder than. Democrats.
I mean, I'm not even objecting to that. I just think that like. If Republicans disenfranchise someone, they don't expect to vote for them. That doesn't mean that they're racist. That means they want to win an election. That's my only point.
I think I think in the U.S., based on like our history, you can't actually distinguish like disenfranchising people because of their party and disenfranchising them because of their race. There's a reason 95% of black people vote for Democrats, and it's a racially tinged history that you cannot separate from the parties. And just like being lazy and just I'm sorry, I'm not saying that to you necessarily, but there's a common point like, oh, well, that's not racial gerrymandering, that's partisan gerrymandering, and that's fine. It's like, well, you can't ignore the history of how this shakes out, you know?
How does it get to 99% or 95% vote Democrat?
It's actually just a really crazy series of coin tosses. Like every time a black person's born, they just like toss a coin. They're like, well, you're voting Democrat now, and like somehow that ends up. No, I'm just fucking around. But
you realize I'm not making an argument that like Republican policy favors black people, right? Like I'm not arguing that.
No, you're
so like if I was in a position of power and like my only concern was winning an election, I would go, hey, who's not going to vote for me? Okay, I'm going to do what I can to make those people not be able to vote. It's just, I don't know.
And there's one party that does that, and there's one party that doesn't do that. So when I say that Republicans don't want like black people to vote or whatever, it's true.
They both make policies against black people and then want to cut the bait and like release the cut the line as well. They want them not to vote as well.
Well, yeah, I think Democrats take the bait on that shit too much because they're non-ideological and they're stupid for it. But like whatever. But it's kind of Republicans are leading the charge on this, and then Democrats just stupidly go along with it because they're incredibly inept. But
so, do they repeat this point again? Because I'm also more willing as an audience member who just never seen this clip. Are they just debating someone and they said something kind of like off the cuff and they meant to say it a certain way, like, or are they making multiple elements of content with this? Point?
Okay, so I have 30 pages of him lying. Okay, like 7 of those claims are about criminal justice. Like 4 of them I think are from videos specifically about. Okay. When I say criminal justice, I meant prison. Sorry, corrections and supervision. There's 7 claims about corrections and supervision. I think 4 of them are from videos from him specifically talking about this, not talking to anyone else. And 3 of them could be considered off-the-cuff remarks talking to someone else. 6 of them are lies. And then when he's talked about the police, just like every single fucking thing he says is a lie. It's insane the level of like dishonesty when it comes to anything involving the police.
I do feel like you're a little too defensive of the police.
I fucking hate the police. Okay? No, I hate the police. I can't stand them. But I'm not a liar. Like there's just so many videos he has that cover something to deal with the police, and he just lies. He's just. I'll go look up what.
I got a question. I got a question again, Duber. So you thought that this last clip here with the slave labor thing was like the slam dunk one? Like what? Like that was the most.
I was just going through them, and that's not the best.
Oh, okay. That is the least ambiguous one.
Yeah,
the least ambiguous lie.
What is the dumpster?
Give me the kill.
Okay, you want the least ambiguous lie to do with criminal justice? Okay, do you know who Reinhold is?
Who?
Okay, so do you know the Patriot Prayer guy got shot by an Antifa guy, and then Trump's in the marshals?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Vaush has a video about that, and literally everything he says is a fucking lie. He frames the entire video as though Reinhold was acting in self-defense. Reinhold hid in a fucking parking garage until he walked by and shot him in the back. Like there's no ambiguity, and the video was made 3 weeks after the event, so there's absolutely no excuse.
So
it's complete fucking lie. And then he also lies about the events of actually Trump sitting in the. I mean, it's like every single thing he says in the video is a lie to like one degree or another. It's like is that like a little bit of a lie? Or not a lie?
Wait, that's not quite what I'm asking for. Like I'm looking for like I like the example that you used with the prison slave labor thing because it was like a very concrete thing. Like I'm not on board with your interpretation of what Vaush meant there, but I understand your complaint. Like I'm looking for like what is the least ambiguous individual claim that's just like now the thing I don't particularly care for about the example you just used is people do the same thing about Breonna Taylor, right? Like there's a lot of misinformation that gets spread out there. So it's really, really hard to isolate that to like, oh, Vaush just got bad information and is repeating it. To Vaush knows the truth and is lying about it.
I'm not speculating on his, like I'm specifically not speculating on his intentions.
I don't care what his intentions are.
I assume his intentions are good.
Patriot
That's
dude,
part of the problem.
Sure. But earlier you're making these claims like, oh, he claimed to have had all of this, expertise in criminal justice.
That's relevant. Like if I say I'm an expert in X and then everything I say about X is wrong, that's worse.
Your example of like what happened in Portland isn't really in that realm, right? Like that's
okay. Let me give you I don't like presenting myself as an expert in criminal justice because there's a lot of people who know more than I do. But okay, so just bear with me for a second, okay? If I make a claim that is provably wrong about criminal justice, don't you think it's worse than some random person in this VC making a claim that's wrong?
What I'm asking you for is an example of a very unambiguous wrong claim that maps directly to something Vaush said or Vaush believed. Because the problem that I'm having with the clip that you shared earlier is that I listened to that and I don't really think he's saying, oh, people are out there trying to get prisoners for slave labor. Like the claim that you're making against Vaush here, I don't hear in Vaush's statement. So what I'm looking for is the unambiguous example, not necessarily the most egregious, oh my God, that's the worst thing he's ever said. I'm just looking for here's a really obvious example where Vaush, if he knew anything about criminal justice, just wouldn't say that, but in a way that it's not open for oh, that's just weird hyperbole in the middle of a debate, offhanded.
We're not including police. You just want specifically the court system.
Whatever you think is a good example of Vaush clearly doesn't know what he's talking about.
But something where he goes on a prolonged diatribe where he's convinced of it or something. That would probably be the best thing instead of I feel like both things were in context. It was just sort of cherry picking the way he worded something.
You understand that I linked
context.
I linked 1/5 of a page of 140
sure.
pages.
But you gotta understand that you also came into this chat with we're gonna kill this guy. It was definitely you're about to implode this dude, and based on the wording, you're saying that they're essentially this. There was the word terrorism somewhere in there in the paragraph, and all this
terrorism. That's
right.
Yeah, that's what he did.
But I'm saying opening with the most milquetoast version of it is not the slammer that we were expecting. We want that slammer.
Yeah, I think anyone who does political activism and public speaking is going to be stochastic terrorism to some extent, but it's sort of is the anger they're stoking justified or is it not justified? Are they using responsible
but here's the problem. Okay,
but,
are you actually familiar with statistics that deal with the police, or do you see news headlines? The anger is not justified.
I know quite a bit about police chat.
Why are you asking us that question? I don't think that's relevant to what I was asking you for.
Yeah, but a lot of people are talking and they just brought up stochastic terrorism. So it's very relevant because my accusation of stochastic terrorism is mostly about the police. He's made other statements that are very clearly indications of violence, but there's no way to make a clear line.
I understand that. No, I don't think we're trying to debate you on stochastic terrorism. I think what Mr. Big Value was trying to say is hey, your claims about the strength of your examples was very, very, very high. But the examples that we've talked about so far are they're okay, yeah, I get what you're saying, but they're not oh yeah, awesome. I'm looking forward to the rest of the video. When you give me the example that you gave me earlier, I'm really, that's it? So I'm looking for where's the unambiguous, here's an example, we got him. It's on his channel. He promotes this point. He said it 30 times, and here's the case where we know
no. Okay, we're talking about a video. We're in the description. He says, "I think I did a great fucking job," and presents himself as an expert in the field. Okay, and he lies as much as the person he's talking about.
Can you link this? Can you link this specific video, please?
Yeah, one second.
Thank you.
So right, I'm not disagreeing with your I don't want to debate your conclusion. Right. What I want to do is I want to understand, hey, where's honestly,
if there's any video where it shouldn't be full of lies, it's this video. This is. Is
this the example that we looked at earlier? What is this example?
Yeah, there's other claims from this video, but
yeah, okay.
If he can claim in the description, make no retractions, and claim expertise in the field. There shouldn't be lies in this video.
This is the one where GKR showed the clip about the felons can't vote thing. Is that this video?
Yeah, it's also a couple of the other claims.
Okay, so what's the felons can't vote one is another example where it's okay, yeah, congrats,
you guys don't accept it, but it's just a complete lie.
It's not.
When I look at that map, it doesn't look like a total lie if you're just talking about the South. That's what
well, it's like some people can get their right to vote back situationally, and it does vary in extreme based on where you are. But just saying the South doesn't let felons vote, it's not all felons or whatever, but they do it to a significant degree where it's worth making that claim, even if hyperbolically.
So what I'm asking right now, Doomer, is like let's say the Valens can't vote one. Is that the same level of ambiguity that your general like stats gathering has provided on Vaush?
Sorry,
like, are they all going to be that ambiguous? Like, is that like the least ambiguous example we're going to get?
I mean, like, what do you want? Like, I don't know what you want me to do. Do I have to go through 30 pages of like
what we've done? Like, I mean, if you have 30 pages and you're
the lying, like the lying. Okay, the lying isn't even the worst part. Like almost every single thing that I'm going to talk about is like dishonest to some degree.
Sure,
like,
sure.
okay,
So,
okay, here. Okay,
I'm not debating that.
I will give you something that is totally unambiguous.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay, if you go watch his debate with Count Dankula, this is the worst he ever lost a debate because he never should have taken this debate.
Oh yeah.
The entire premise of this debate is that he's accusing White Dankula of being a white supremacist, and he's just not. So it's hilarious. But in the beginning of the debate, like the debate starts, and they say, "Can you guys define white supremacy?" Okay, and then Vaush basically gives a Google definition. And then Dankula basically gives a Google definition. I mean, like I have them written down. It's they basically say the same thing. And then Vaush says, no, that's attacks it. He's like, no, that's a very stupid definition. That's a very unacademic definition. And like goes fucking hard trying to attack it when you just gave the same definition.
Okay, like, what does that have to do with what we were talking about?
It's completely dishonest. I mean, how like.
I think Dankula's a fucking moron and pals around with like white nationalists and functionally enables them and probably embodies a lot of the ideas that they support. But like, I don't know, do I give a shit between a dipshit and
I think that you can be a white nationalist without
believing
you're a white nationalist as well.
What Dankula is or isn't relevant to like whether Vaush. Like, I don't think anyone is going to contest that Vaush is a slimy debate bro, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
I mean, like,
I
don't know how to respond. You're like, I want more specific examples of lies about this one exact thing where you already gave me multiple lies. Like what?
Well, it's because we I don't like we're giving you the benefit of the doubt of assuming like you were giving us your weaker evidence first, and that if you just had like a hierarchy of what you think is strongest, that you can give us like the strongest thing and we can evaluate that, you know? Like we don't want to you're
asking for something incredibly specific. You're like, I don't just want evidence that he's an asshole. I don't just want evidence that he's a fucking like complete I want lies. I want lies specifically. I want lies specifically about criminal justice.
An unreasonable request here. It's like if someone asked me for evidence that Donald Trump is a fucking racist or something, right? And I'm just like, well, this one time he said, what's it called? I don't know, something's an animal or something. And people are like, well, I want something more concrete. I'm like, okay, well, here's the time where he got caught up in a thing where he was just like intentionally not renting to black people or something.
So Mr. Thick just makes a good point. In the beginning of the video, Vaush admits multiple times he knows Dankula is not a white supremacist. And then he continues arguing that he's a white supremacist for the next 2 hours.
He does. Oh man, that is not an accurate assessment of what that debate was, because he even says it. Hold on. So I'm aware of that. That is the debate topic, and he says like going into that. He even talks about it afterwards. That he goes, it was really stupid of me to take that debate because it's like an impossible thing to like prove unilaterally. Like we're not arguing like a factual issue. I'm arguing what's in someone's head. So all I could do is give him like, here are the people you hang out with. Here's what your rhetoric. Look at all your look at the people you attack.
Okay, do you think it's okay to call someone a white supremacist because they have a couple of friends who are shady people? That's the bar of evidence.
That is not what I just fucking said, bro.
That's all his evidence.
No. It's that the stuff that he tweets, the way that he acts.
He's an edgy comedian. He jokes about it. Like Vaush has more echoes in the chat than he does. What are you talking about?
I don't know what we're talking about. What are we talking about?
Dude, like you're defending the idea that it was okay to call Dankula a white supremacist because he has some like
I don't give it.
Three shady friends.
Dankula's a fucking jackass.
I don't want to watch the Dankula video. I don't care about Dankula.
But saying he's a liar for that, like I don't know, you could call it bad faith, I guess, if you want, or just being an asshole.
Okay, what do you call it when Vaush argues for 2 hours that George W. Bush stole the 2000 election?
I mean, he did, so I don't know.
Okay. You just believe every single fucking stupid thing that he says.
Wait. Actually, let's do this right now. Let's debate the 2000. I guarantee you, I know more about this than you, and I didn't watch a fucking Vaush video.
Give me evidence.
Evidence? What evidence would you like?
I don't care
about George W. Bush stole 2000 election.
I got to bounce, but I just want to make sure, like Doomer, I'm not trying to like give you shit for your stuff. I'm just trying to make sure, like I'm trying to figure out, like, hey, you've got X number of pages of line items full of things that are like the 2 or 3 examples that you gave here. Like that's what you're saying.
I think the problem is
okay. This is not a good format for figuring out whether or not my video is good. Okay, I'm arguing with people. I'm arguing with people who just agree with all of the lies that Vaush.
I am not disagreeing with that. I'm not. That's not my point. That's not my point. I'm just trying to like. I'm just using voice chat really quickly to skip large amounts of text conversation, right? So you're saying effectively that there's a body of evidence of examples similar to the ones that we're talking about, and you can compile that into a point of like, hey, here's all the evidence. Like any individual one, maybe you can debate, but like overall, like, hey, this is.
I don't need verification that the video is going to show him to be a douchebag. I already know that factually.
I'm not asking.
You can verify that in 2 weeks when it's done.
I'm asking you, what is your video?
What you're asking?
I'm asking you, like, the video is effectively the same kinds of like I'm just curious about the video. I'm not trying to tell you your video sucks.
I'll show you the index. There's a bunch of different topics. Like lying is honestly a pretty small part of it.
Right. But like for each of those little points, you've got examples similar to the ones that you've talked about today, and and like say 3 or 4 for each subheading or whatever, right? And you're just kind of going through the list of.
Like I don't know how you want me to like it. It's very different section by section.
No, I'm just saying.
Okay. You want an example of lying? Here we go. We can just go down the list. Okay. The bad faith example is largely talking about Count Dankula, and then it has other examples. And again, maybe fucking GKR thinks he is a white supremacist because he just believes all the same fucking bullshit Vaush believes. But it's a completely bad faith conversation. It's one of the worst. It's one of the worst faith conversations I've ever seen in my life.
I'm not GKR. I haven't get GKR stuff. Like,
we go to the format section. I can just basically read out the script because I mean it's like fucking bulletproof. Okay, we go to the format section. Okay.
I'm not asking you to go through line by line. I'm just asking you, like, hey, like, am I understanding what your main point is? Like in like what you were talking about in the text chat is you have the script, you've collected a lot of evidence, you've collected a lot of statements from Vaush, you've collected a lot of like clips to other interviews and videos and so on and so forth, and then like they're all kind of like the ones that you presented as examples today, and together you've made a script out of those examples, and the conclusion is. Similar to what was in the subreddit post, right? Where it's like, okay, therefore Vaush is bad, right?
Oh, I'm not even understanding the debate, you fucking idiot. You're fucking arguing that he stole the election, you fucking moron. This has no fucking connection to George W. Bush. You're arguing, oh my fucking god, dude. You're arguing the dumbest fucking point in the world. You do the same fucking, you do the same fucking thing.
Are you an idiot? I'm sorry.
You are a fucking moron, dude.
All right, Doomer.
What's the connection to Bush? What's the connection to Bush?
What's Catherine Harris's connection to George Bush?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm talking to someone who doesn't know. Okay, so she actually led his campaigns in Florida. She was the chair of his campaign in Florida and was also the Secretary of State in Florida, who then disenfranchised 8,000 people.
And that means George W. Bush stole the election.
What do we mean by steal the election? So when I say steal the election, I mean that they undermine the democratic process, use structures in place in order to obfuscate or obstruct a count. So I know what they did was they forced the votes to stop being counted and stop being recounted when there were enormous errors in Florida for a variety of reasons.
Fucking Jeb Bush recused himself. George Bush had nothing to do with it. What are you talking about? It's the Supreme Court was ruling. Wait, how is this having to do with George W. Bush?
So when I say George W. Bush stole the election, do we mean like just George W. Bush single-handedly went there and sabotaged things? Like, what do you think we mean when we say George W. Bush?
Accused him of being a fascist, and his only evidence was that he stole the election, and then he argued about it for 2 hours.
I was so annoyed at that. I was supposed to
arguing with me.
So hold on, he didn't have like the information at hand, but unfortunately for you, I do. I'm actually know a lot about this, and I offered to debate Pisco on this because I'll wreck Pisco on this too because I don't give a shit because like you're just fucking wrong. The Supreme Court are a bunch of fucking hack-ass fucking losers.
So there's a connection to George W. Bush.
The connection is that this is all part of the conservative like fucking project to install a conservative into power. What the fuck do you mean,
the fucking
bro?
butterfly ballots designed by fucking Democrat. Okay, yeah, okay. And fucking
hold on, it's not that. Hold on.
Oh, but there's a fucking Republican was involved.
Hey, can you buddy? You're emotional. You're emotional. Calm down. Okay, just breathe deep, and we'll go over this real quick. And
You're calling me a moron for something that's like objectively wrong that fucking no serious person would agree with. You're making the dumbest fucking point in the world, and you're being like extremely fucking arrogant about it. This is
because you're just wrong, and you don't know what you're talking about.
Great.
Like you're telling me like how did George W. So like hold on. I cited Catherine.
The ASC conferences.
Doomer, shut the fuck up, bro. Shut the fuck up right now. Jesus Christ. So I'm so much smarter than you. It hurts. It hurts. It does hurt.
Yeah.
This big brain just bursting out of my
Oh,
skull.
big
Your
brain.
points.
So-
I want to hear you guys. Come on.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll make the point. So there's a few nuanced things to this. So when I say George W. Bush or whatever stole the election, we don't mean George W. Bush himself went there and sabotaged.
Right,
Bush.
conversation
so we're talking,
over.
Doomer, calm down. No one that like, oh my god. See, this guy's like overly literal. Like I don't mean this as an insult,
just
but
good points. Let's go.
okay, fine. Okay, so
When I say George W. Bush stole the
Doomer,
election, I don't mean that.
Doomer.
What the fuck are you talking about? That's a whole
Doomer.
conversation, you moron.
Doomer, shut the fuck up. Just mute
No,
yourself.
the conversation's over. You lost. He didn't steal the election. There's no connection.
So unless
It's-
George
like,
W.
what are you
Bush
talking about?
like
When someone
donned
says
the
when
mask.
someone says blank stole the election, they're thinking about like
It's just like them
Probably
Someone
working
more
says
in
than
George
concert.
W. Bush stole the
right?
election and they don't mean George Bush stole the election, they're fucking dumb and you shouldn't listen to anything else.
We mean the election was
Well,
stolen.
when
Hold
we're
on, we mean
talking
the
about
election was
political
stolen for George W. Bush.
yeah.
right?
When we're talking
and
about
him as the person who led his campaign is primarily in charge of that, right? And there are people who worked in that campaign who actively did all this. All the lawyers who facilitated the Brooks Brothers riot to stop a completely legitimate legal recount because they didn't want a recount to go that was putting Gore ahead, that they thought would put Gore ahead. So they did what they could to delay the recount. And they got the
I understand. I understand.
the
So
recount
there's a
delayed
political process.
intentionally.
If there is a political process that isn't 100% above board, that means George Bush stole the election. I got it.
It's literally everything in concert. Holy fuck, bro. So anyway, for the people actually interested, I'll talk about this a little bit because I do think if you're familiar with the conversation he's referring to, I don't think Vaush did a particularly good attack on this. And I don't know if I would call it fascist just for this. I don't know. I guess it's a little more complicated, but whatever. But
well, he did.
But there's a whole bunch. I'm not saying that whether or not he did. I don't care what he did. I'm saying I don't know if I would call it this particular thing fascist or whatever.
Would
I'd
you
have to think
disagree
about it.
with him?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it more. I mean, undermining democracies is definitely a thing fascists would do, but is that singular thing enough to say it? I don't know. I think the entire Republican project for the last 50 years is fundamentally reactionary. So I'm not surprised that happened, but whatever. So you have a whole bunch of little things, right? Similar to what happened to Stacey Abrams in the 2018 election. You had a Republican who was in charge of the election, who was also part of the campaign. In the case of 2018, it was Brian Kemp was the Secretary of State who was in charge of overseeing his own election. In the case of Florida, you had Katherine Harris, who was the chair of the Bush campaign's. She was the chair of the Bush campaign in Florida. So she was in charge of the Florida election for George W. Bush while also being in charge of administering that election. There's something that is a little fucked up there. And in that process, she removed 8,000 people, mostly black and brown, who were not able to vote. Even though they didn't have felonies that would prevent them from voting, she removed them off the voter rolls, didn't look into it carefully enough, whatever. Yeeted 8,000 people off the voter rolls in an election that was decided by 4,000 votes. As they're doing a recount because it's so close and they have the butterfly ballot issues, which is not George Bush's fault. He had nothing to do with that. Katherine Harris probably didn't have to do that. It's done at a countywide level. That's not their fault. Dying on the butterfly ballots would be a very stupid thing to do. Fortunately, we don't have to do that. There's a very easy way to figure this out, right? And we recount the ballots and we try and determine the ones where we had issues with, what was the voter intent here, and they were doing that. So
Just really quick. You realize that this is the exact same argument as Trump people in 2020, right?
Nope, you're a fucking
exact
idiot.
same logic. Oh, okay.
Doomer, you're this is just so fucking sad. So this is me telling you
Yeah,
the exact way this process worked.
This is me telling
I
you
linked you a
this is
Salon article talking about 8,000
You're arguing something that every single expert disagrees with.
No expert disagrees that 8,000 people were purged off the ballot. That's not something for disagreeing about. Do you agree? Are you telling me that experts are telling me?
Mr. Thick, I'm not trying to win the conversation because this person will not agree with me under any circumstances. I don't care.
I have no problem. I think I've been pretty dude, I could have jumped
No,
down
you
your
haven't.
throat.
No, you fucking haven't.
Listen, let's be fucking real here. If I wanted to be a huge fucking dickhead, when you said
you've already been a huge fucking dickhead.
I really have not.
Okay.
So I could have jumped down your fucking throat and been a bad-faith piece of shit when you said 178 people. No. When you said 178 people as a result of private prison thing because you didn't read the number correctly, and you jumped down someone's throat for misquoting that at you, and they didn't.
They didn't misquote it. They didn't read it at all. Okay.
Sure, he said he read the abstract, which I disagree with your position on abstracts, but like whatever. I don't really care.
If you don't think that abstracts in criminal justice literature are often misleading, then you don't read criminal justice literature.
Are you like a conservative or like what's your deal, bro? Libertarian?
Actually,
libertarian?
no. I'm a fucking social democrat. I actually understand the fucking literature, dog.
Like, this is incredible, right? So you actually genuinely compared me talking about 8,000 ballots that were uncontestably thrown out, and you're telling me that I'm lying, or that
you're making the exact same arguments that my fucking uncle makes about Trump stealing the fucking election, and it's like it's like the same conversation.
No, I'm not.
It's like, we needed to recount the ballots. We didn't have to. They fucking changed the law.
We literally didn't hear though. We recounted the ballots in Georgia. Biden, everyone's like, yeah, do the recount. We don't care. Democrats don't fight recounts. They don't care. They're just like, let the recounts happen. Remember, Biden famously like laughed. He goes, the Trump campaign paid $3 million for a recount in Wisconsin, and they found me another 100 votes. Like, he just laughed about it. They didn't ever contest doing recounts. Democrats don't do that. I don't care. I don't like the Democratic Party, but like that's just not in the fucking playbook, bro.
Like you're setting a very like you're doing this equivocation and it's
no, you're really the one doing an equivocation. You can have things.
You started the conversation by saying when I say George W. Bush stole the election, what I don't mean is that George W. Bush stole the election. Okay, so you've already lost the conversation.
No one literally means that. Like it's so bad.
I think that when you're talking about political party, we're assuming it's like. The person is just the tip of the iceberg to the whole function of what that person is. At least that's how I view.
That's why it's so.
If I like
this exact thing,
this entire conversation is like I'll make a statement. I'll be like, oh well, if you change the statement a little bit, and if you look at the data a little bit differently, if you change the issue, then it's like, but that's not.
We're not changing it. This is a fundamentally bad faith debate. So this specific statement clearly has a meaning behind it that you're just ignoring. I'm very good faith. In fact, I have not been a fucking dick to you. I haven't fucking lied to you. I haven't tried to fucking just browbeat you. I've gotten irritated with you for being a fucking idiot, but like that happens sometimes. Okay. You like this is just so like you even said like you just believe everything Vaush says like
yes unironically you believe the same stupid shit that he says. That's why you're defending him. That is exactly what's going on.
I'm a busy fucking person. I do not watch every fucking Vaush video, bro. And I literally have these opinions.
When did I say that? And what did I say that?
You said I agree with everything like Vaush says.
I said of the things we've gone over, you agree with the lies that he told. That's why you're defending him. Because you agree with these things.
Or I just think like your criticisms are like fun. Like I'm not gonna say bad faith. I don't think you're doing this like intentionally, but I think you just really don't like this guy for whatever reason. I think there are genuine reasons not to like him, and you give the worst twist on everything he said. And there's a reason a whole bunch of people here, not just me, who don't like Vaush. I don't care for fucking Vaush.
That's interesting. Darth Bane, when did I claim to be busy?
To be what?
When did I claim to be busy, Darth Bane?
Wait, what?
Been arguing VC for at least 2 hours. Yeah, hell yeah, bro.
You're just gonna a mod. You're just gonna okay. All right, sure. Okay. Yeah, you're a really intelligent person.
Darth Bane, what's up, buddy? Yeah. Well, I'm a busy person in the sense that I would rather do other shit than listen to a dumbass YouTuber talk about politics when I can listen to audiobooks or podcasts that are way more interesting than some jackass on fucking YouTube.
I hate podcasts, to be honest.
But whatever.
I think Twitch chat can actually hold someone to account. If you do a podcast, you go live for 3 hours, and then no people only see it later.
There are like a few different things that were done that through that election to.
Let's run this conversation down, okay? So I said that Vaush said that felons can't vote, and Vaush said that felons can't vote, and they can. Okay, cool. Next, and then the next claim. Let's see what the next claim was.
Yeah.
The next
we all
claim
agreed
was
with
that
you on
Vaush
that.
Yeah, I just like every single thing that I said is true, and you've been fucking arguing with me over and over again.
No one here.
Like,
no one here.
Oh yeah. George Bush stole the election, except for the fact that George Bush didn't steal the election. Let's just start the conversation that way.
Yeah. Nice.
I think the thing is that the arguments that they're disagreeing with are like you're taking like a very technical route right now.
What do you mean a technical route? I'm just taking people at what they say. What am I supposed to say? If he claims expertise in a subject and then makes a claim, and then like I'm talking to you and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna fucking turn this claim into something.
Well, when you say George Bush stole the election, there's an entity George Bush, and then there's a human George Bush, right? When people say X stole the election, they're talking about like, the entire thing, right?
The campaign apparatus of Bush is what we're talking about.
Right.
And
yeah, I don't even know if they were saying like the person.
This is like
you trying to pretend we mean Bush himself is just so stupid. Like
that's the only relevant claim. Nobody makes
relevant?
the claim that nothing fucked up happened in the election. The claim is that Bush didn't steal it in the context of Vaush claiming that Bush is a fascist because he stole an election. That's the only relevant claim.
So you're saying that the George Bush campaign didn't do it, or are you talking about the human didn't direct it?
I'm saying that there is no conceivable reason to believe that George Bush or anyone that George Bush was directly influencing stole the fucking election. It was Supreme Court rulings. His brother recused himself. The butterfly ballots were designed by a Democrat. What the fuck are you talking? Like,
do you know how crazy it was that the Supreme Court took that case? Like, how fucking insane it was. Like, you don't even. So it's insane because like you can look at articles at the time where everyone's like, "Oh, the Supreme Court's not going to take this case. They have like no basis to take it." So the entire like idea is that states control their own elections. The Supreme Court has no basis in which to tell the. So the Florida Supreme Court already said, do the fucking recount because Catherine Harris was trying not to do the recount. They were trying to like fucking delay all this shit. Sorry, they contested to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's like, "Nah, you got to stop counting that, and then we'll deal with it later." And then when they eventually dealt with it, they were like, "Oh, that's so crazy. There's not enough time to like stop doing the recount." But this is
it's something that's like a national issue. It's just a state issue.
Well, that's the thing. The elections, based on our Constitution, are like entirely up to states. This is the entire pretext they use to allow states to do all this disenfranchising and shit.
I mean,
so it's very weird for them to have done this. Like to taking this case alone is just fucking crazy.
Like there's some national interest there. I mean, like the Constitution, it enshrines that states get to appoint their own electors and all that. But
it's not just that they get to
recount that's holding up the entire federal election.
It seems like a lot to know whether or not that's really weird.
It wasn't though. Like the Florida Supreme Court already made a ruling, and that the what's it called, the Supreme Court like overruled them and then slowed things down and then put a pause on it and then said, "Oh, too much time has passed. We don't have time to count anymore," because they stopped the election. They did all this intentionally, so they saw an opportunity to like throw the election to Bush, and they did it. I mean, that's what they did. They used their power to do it because they're conservatives, and it's what it is. It is what happened. But like, we're gonna sit here and just lie about what happened there. It's just crazy to me.
Oh, what lies did I tell?
Oh, I'm not saying you are in particular are lying there. I mean, you're probably just wrong, but that's okay. Many people are wrong about this.
I'm wrong. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like,
isn't the whole thing about George W. Bush themselves being a fascist and not necessarily like conservative party?
Yeah, but that's not relevant because he's wrong about that. So he's going to focus on something that he's a little bit less wrong about.
I think it's just a really confusing.
No comment on whether or not Bush was a fascist. I said I'd have to think about it more. I don't know enough about the Bush administration.
I think that the accusation is that Bush is
only came up because, like, this is the entire context of the conversation. Bush, fucking Vaush calls Bush a fascist because he stole the election. That's the entire reason we're having this conversation. And you said he did steal the election. That's the entire start of the fucking conversation. And then you started. When I say George Bush stole the election, I don't mean George Bush stole the election. That's why I said at the beginning you've already lost the conversation. Nothing else you say is wrong.
What you're saying is so bad faith. Like, I
was
clearly
confused
mean
about
the
what
Bush
was going
campaign.
on. No, I was thinking the same thing, JKR. I was thinking exactly the same thing. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, do you think you put like a ski mask on and went to the ballot? Like
it's just crazy. But, like I clearly would never mean that. And no one who ever said like Bush stole the election means like George Bush himself unilaterally.
But what they're saying in the context,
is so fucking bad faith.
No. What the context is like Vaush is saying that George W. Bush is a fascist.
Okay, hold on. I need to bring this. This has happened every single time. This has happened every single fucking time. Okay, we talk about the claim about mass incarceration. My only claim is that there isn't an incentive from the state to lock people up for slave labor because the cost of incarceration is higher than the cost of value for the prisoner. That's my only point. And then we kept getting distracted. We kept getting distracted on a million other things. Okay, because I'm right about that.
The thing is,
move on to another thing. This has happened every single time.
States don't make actions based on like their own well-being. Truly, like the politicians are just individually making decisions, and they don't necessarily care about the well-being of the state. Even
that is not true.
Well, I mean, like like good for the state doesn't mean bad for the
I'm profoundly
politician who's
stupid.
getting
Dude, you are
lobbied.
such a fucking moron, dude. What have I said that's okay, how about this? How about this? If you can tell me a single thing that I've said that's wrong, then I will admit that I'm a fucking moron. But
So okay, sure.
You can't give me a single example.
So you said that no studies or anything would confirm that 8,000 voter registrations were thrown out.
No, I didn't say that.
You did say that. That was like the first claim I made.
Wait, shut the fuck up. GKR, shut the fuck up.
For you,
Did
I've
anybody
been
else hear
recording
that?
this whole time.
Did anybody else hear that?
I have a recording of it, so
great.
fuck you.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Go look at
I'll
your
link it
fucking
to you later,
recording.
buddy.
Go look at your recording
All
and
for
tell
you,
me when
buddy.
I said that there wasn't election fuckery in Florida, because it didn't happen.
You
Go right now. Go look at the fucking
I
recording.
can't look at the recording. It's still going, buddy.
Like 5K was the thing, right?
Actual zero IQ moron. I'd love the recording, by the way.
What? Oh, I was not gonna upload it anywhere. You know, I was gonna ask you afterwards. It's okay.
Yeah, it's very convenient. You're not going to upload a fucking conversation where you look like a fucking idiot.
Do you
and lie
want
about
me?
literally everything.
Well,
That's
if
really
you
fucking
want,
convenient.
dude. If you want, I'll totally upload it. I just don't
Oh
upload
yes,
stuff that I'm
please,
asking
please,
people.
please upload it.
Tell you what, right after this,
Please upload it.
right onto the YouTube channel.
Okay, and I would love a timestamp for when I said that there wasn't election fucking.
Yeah, no problem, buddy.
Did anybody? By the way, did anybody hear that?
You said
Did anybody hear that?
something to the effect.
By the way, the entire
Man, you just
context
can't.
of
You
this.
just love hearing yourself talk, don't you? That's great. No wonder you wrote a 5,000 word manifesto on how much you hate
Keep fucking
Vaush.
talking. Keep fucking talking, bitch. Okay, the entire context of this was that I said he can't point out a single time I said anything wrong in the entire conversation, and then he just brought up a fucking lie. Did anyone else hear? Not you. Shut the fuck up, GKR. Did anyone else hear me say that there wasn't election fuckery in Florida?
Guys, there's literally a recording. We
Shut
don't have
up.
to worry about this.
Shut
we can
up.
do it later.
Yeah, we all need to
Did
chill
anybody
out.
else hear that? Did anybody else hear me say there wasn't election fuckery in Florida?
Super
Anybody?
mad.
Yeah, I heard you say that.
When? What did I say?
Wasn't that like a few minutes ago? I don't remember everything. Yeah,
It's probably about 10 or 15 minutes ago. Let's say
like, okay, here's my point. There's some federal laws that regulate election disputes, as there's been done since 1880. And apparently, there was a election dispute over like different electors being appointed. If you look at the Vaush v. Gore, it references the Electoral Count Act of 1887. So, like,
I didn't say it, Darth Bane. I never said it. Like, I know there was election fuckery, so I know for a fact I wasn't going to push back on that. I was only going to push back on the idea that Bush was involved in stealing the election. That's the only relevant point.
So, okay.
Physically incapable of what? I didn't say it, you fucking idiot. Go look
okay.
at the fucking VOD. Pause your stupid recording and go fucking find it.
Nah.
Or shut your fucking mouth.
It'll happen at the end. Relax. It'll
Oh,
solve the process
yeah,
and I have to
great.
go through it. I don't give a fuck that much about you.
All due process.
It'll
think-
be at the end. So
Actually,
you think there was
insane.
you think there was fuckery, but like what does that mean then? Like there was just fuckery that he had nothing to do with?
It's the only thing that matters is whether or not George Bush stole it. I don't know the fucking details. Like obviously,
How do
the
we
election came down to like
qualify who
500
stole
votes. There's disenfranchisement in every election. Any election that comes down to 500 votes, like it's going to be decided basically by someone like fucking with it. There's no way to avoid that. There's always going to be a law that was changed. There's always going to be someone that fucked someone over. There's always going to be polling locations that were closed. It's like not possible for there to be a
it's almost
statewide
like
Florida
everything
Do
election.
you
you
believe that
listed
George
is
W.
unbelievable.
Bush's campaign fought against the recount, or no?
I mean, I don't know exactly what you mean by campaign. Like, did
like,
someone?
Their
someone, like,
apparatus, not
that's
the.
a pretty
Not the
cool.
that's fair. That's fair. Do you think? Okay. Do you think George W.
Do
Bush?
you mean like a federal employee or like a conservative in Florida?
I'm talking
When
about
we say-
specifically someone directly part of the George W. Bush campaign wanted to stop the recount. Or
yeah, that's
fought
what
against
it's.
the
of course.
recount.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Wikipedia. Yeah.
There's a big difference between they wanted to stop the recount and like they actually interfered and changed the outcome of things. Like, yeah, obviously
But
everyone
they-
in George Bush's campaign didn't want
they
the recount to
literally
happen.
stopped the
Something with
recount.
it. Didn't they ask the court for like preliminary, or what do you call it, preliminary injunction or something that you can stop?
They
something?
literally had a riot in like a Miami-Dade like voting office or something, and then forced the vote counting to stop
The George,
when they were pushed up against a deadline.
And that was George Bush's campaign?
Yes, it was lawyers
They riot?
working for that
Yeah.
campaign who did that. Like, I had sent you the fucking link on it, bro. And don't come at me saying
Where's the
like
link?
it's literally the Brooks Brothers riot. It's right above you. Don't worry, buddy. I'll send it again. I'm super generous. Here you go.
You're not generous at all. You're
Super
acting like I'm
generous.
lying in a
Most
conversation where you can't point out a single lie that I fucking said. You piece of shit. You're doing the
Well,
same
no,
fucking
no,
shit that
hold on.
Bosch does.
For this,
God damn,
for
dude, I
this,
fucking hate people.
I've just told
Can't
you that
fucking
you're
stand
wrong
people, dude.
and that you don't know what you're talking about, which
I
I think,
didn't make a claim against you, moron.
which I
I
think I've
didn't
been
claim
validated
anything
on.
about this. Oh my god, dude. I
Well,
fucking
so
hate
you
this
said that
guy.
the election's not stolen, and then when I went through each one of
Said
these things,
George W. Bush didn't
And
steal
then
it, you dumbass.
The entire article does not mention the Bush campaign.
in the
calm
Brooks
down,
Brothers,
dude.
right?
You know, it only,
God
the
damn,
Wiki-
you are a fucking retard, dude.
Wikipedia article only mentions Gore campaign. If you look for the campaign specifically, so maybe like, can you
Oh
give me
my
something
god.
that references it?
Get gaslit for an entire conversation.
You just
It's like,
go under.
"Oh, this guy's a fucking liar. Even though I can't point out a single lie that he said. Oh, me. Fucking moron, dude.
You're having a
Holy
rough time
shit.
over there. It's okay. I get
Okay,
it.
yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah, having a rough time. Yeah,
having
go
your
check
views
the
challenged is very
recording,
difficult.
buddy. Go check the
It'll
recording.
literally be posted for you to enjoy and appreciate you being wrong to whatever
Oh, yeah.
extent
Is
you
that-
Yeah, me being right for literally 2 hours. Great.
So under this link, it says hundreds of people, including many Republican staffers, descended upon South Florida to protest the state's recount. The demonstration was organized by these operatives, sometimes referred to as the Brooks Brothers Brigade, to oppose the recount ballots during the Florida election recount. The official canvassers, to speed up the process and meet their deadline, moved the counting process into a new room. Members of the media are restricted to a distance of 25 feet.
Okay, so let's be clear. This is Representative John Sweeney, and you're connecting this to George Bush.
Republican staffers. What does that mean, though?
They're staffers of a
For his
Republican
work in
congressman.
Florida, because he's working on Bush's campaign in Florida. This is. Do you not understand what? Do you have like a really
Where
intense
does it say that?
individual lens here?
It
It says
like
Republicans objected to the change
like
of plans.
the number of,
Hey, I'm reading,
of
buddy.
Republicans that have a vague connection to George Bush is like all of them.
Oh man, if only I could just like click this guy's name. I wonder if it's gonna say like his work on what's his name's campaign. Let's see. Does it say anything here? I don't even know. I could be wrong. Roll in the 2000 recount. Helped earn his nickname, President Bush, for organizing the so-called Brooks. So Bush apparently approved of this guy organizing the Brooks Brothers, right? Hell yeah, bro. Led the charge.
Young professionals for Bush. I don't know what that is.
So I've never read any of this. So I could just be proven wrong right now. This would be great. Or at least on Wikipedia, I haven't read it. So. Involved recount, he defended his actions against the incident. Completely.
Oh, by the way, earlier he claimed he knows everything about this. Earlier he claimed he knows everything
Well,
about
I didn't
this.
read the Wikipedia page.
He's read the Wikipedia page for the first fucking time.
I'm
Okay?
gonna
Let's
be
just put that.
It's
incredibly
almost
good
like I
faith
don't
too.
learn stuff from the Wikipedia page. It's crazy.
Yeah, because
man.
you don't know anything about it. You just claim to be an expert on this. Oh my fucking god.
An
I'm
expert.
gonna
I
be-
said I know a lot more than you about this. That doesn't mean I'm an expert, my friend.
I'm gonna be incredibly charitable to you and say next time you cite Wikipedia, be mindful of edits that might happen. I
Yeah,
edit
right.
Wikipedia sometimes,
I
but
could've-
these get over way quicker than you think. So you might think you see something and then it's reverted the next day. So it's
You
not
never made
always-
the argument that Bush is a fascist.
What?
I said you never made the argument that Bush is a fascist.
True. I did not.
So
Young professionals for Bush is someone.
Yeah, Darth Bane.
I don't know what the fuck.
So Darth Bane, what happened was, Vaush was just basically calling everyone a fascist. Like he said that. Okay, he made a claim that like everybody who voted for Trump is a fascist, and then like the entire panel attacked him for like an hour, and then they were asking him for other examples of fascists, and the people he mentioned were Antonin Scalia and George W. Bush. His reason for Yeah, so his reason for George W. Bush was that George W. Bush stole the 2000 election, and his reason for Antonin Scalia was that he like had an anti-minority ruling one time. I mean, that's like literally that sounds that sounds like straw manning. I think that's literally what he said. Like there's just like no evidence. This was a 2-hour argument on Prime. I have it in my notes as
Hey,
the Prime
Antonin
Peace fascism shit show.
Scalia, guess what his
was
vote
awful.
was in the Bush v. Gore decision? Can you guess? Can you guess which side of that he was on? I got
On Bush?
It's on the fascism side. Boom, got him. Yeah, no, yeah, he voted
Fascism
with Bush.
side. Huh.
Yeah. It was honestly like the most painful conversation. It was even worse than that because he's making all these claims that are wrong. But beyond that, he was like Vaush was gaslighting people so fucking hard. Like my notes on that conversation are 10 pages long, and it's so every time I watch it, it's just like amazing how Vaush is able to just like lie about what people said in real time, and just like it's honestly it's incredible the amount that he's able to deflect. Like at one point, so. His definition of fascism is Umberto Eco's 14 points of Ur fascism, right? And some dude, I forget his name, it's not Pisco. Some dude kept asking him, like, how many points would you need to be a fascist? And he just won't answer it.
Because it's more complicated than that.
It is, but
I
like
think
the point is
Echo's
like
14 points is also a really weak way to define fascism too.
Yeah, Vivian actually gave a much better. I have it written down, but Vivian gave a way better explanation. It's like not at all. It's not ambiguous. It makes it pretty clear what a fascist looks like. But like, I mean, in Umberto Eco's definition, just by accident, most politicians or governments would have like a couple of them. And it's like it's just kind of what Vaush does. It's like, oh well, listen, you're on point 4 and point 10, so you're a fascist.
It's the more points, the more fascist you are. There you go, buddy. Crack that. We're all a little fascists, so it's just like, can you avoid being super fascist? There, I cracked the code for you.
Yeah.
Problem is, if you look at the definition of fascism page on Wikipedia, there's 12 or something. So, you know,
there's 14. I can post them.
I had like 25 definitions from various authors, like in a Google Doc, but
yeah, I mean, actually trying to define it's kind of difficult. Which is, I mean, that's just he just kind of hides behind that. He's like, well, you know, you can't really find a fascist. Like, okay, well then stop calling literally everyone a fascist. Then maybe I don't know. Question mark.
Well, maybe everyone is a fascist. Who knows? Y'all, we are fascists, every one of us. How about that?
Could be. In case anyone's curious what these are. I think there's a couple notes in there of like, if you change one thing, it's like Vaush. Like one of them is hating poor people. It's like, okay, well, hating rich people. I don't know. It's an interesting definition, but it's also complicated to the point where it's kind of non-functional in a normal conversation.
Contempt for a week. I think these are vague. Some of them might be useful. But some of these were like the enemy's both strong and weak. This is something that everyone will emphasize about their enemies, right? You will, if you hate someone, you will like downplay their biggest achievements while also praising or whatever, like highlighting their biggest mistakes, right?
Yep.
That's something what I find kind of vague, but you know, take from it what you will.
Another interesting spicy Vaush point. If you want things that make him look really bad, I have him admitting, something he says a lot is that 1984 is his favorite book. I have him admitting basically that he does newspeak intentionally, and like it's almost certain that it's his favorite book because he finds the actions of Ingsoc inspiring. I think that's unironically what's going on there.
That is amazing. Look. Why do you make a Google Doc on Vaush? That's something I'm very interested in.
I'm making a very long YouTube video on it.
Oh. It seems like, to me, like, I disagree with plenty of stuff Vaush says, but I would never, ever do that. It just takes way too much time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about halfway through it. I really wish I fucking didn't do this, because now I gotta finish, and it's a big fucking pain in my ass, but...
I have a fetish. Whoa. So at the top of this, you were talking about platforming.
Okay, hold on a second. Darth Bane is right. I misread him earlier and chewed him out. I'm sorry, Darth Bane. It's my bad. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say at the top of this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were talking about like deplatforming and how like, you know, we should stop Vaush in some regard or something, or no?
Well, I just said that he's like explicitly pro like. Basically every form of political violence. So he engaged in deplatforming for a long time.
Right.
Most people accuse him of deplatforming Destiny during the Kenosha thing. But I don't think that's really fair. But he did try to deplatform and successfully desponsored Destiny in like 2015. And talk about it in a video. And just in general, he was engaged in deplatforming for a long time. And it's like very, very openly pro political violence. In basically anything.
I think once you get to job tier, you better be, you know, good with your facts, basically, because yeah, I mean, like, it is just violence. You could go a step further than just saying political. It is just violence, right?
Well, that's the thing is like if you like look at the things that he says, it's such fucking crazy doublethink because he'll be he'll spell out this argument for defensive political violence, and then he'll talk about how he wants to instigate so that he can give the illusion of having defensive political violence. And then he'll say, well, it's defensive political violence if it's conceivable that someone could try and hurt you, that's just offensive violence. Like, who gets to decide whether or not someone might hurt you? Like, Vaush thinks that half the country are literally Nazis. I mean, like, if that's your perception, then you can just justify violence against any of your political opponents at any time.
I think like 20 to 30% are part of a fascist movement, but I think that's different than being a Nazi to some extent, I suppose.
I don't know. I think fascist is going a bit far. I think
I
conservatives
said
are French words.
engaged in a fascist movement. The level of like cognitive awareness in that, I think, is overstated. I think even if you went to like Nazi Germany or fucking fascist Italy or something, you would find like most of the people who aren't like meaningfully engaged in like, you know, some what's it called, like palingenetic myth or something like that. Most of them aren't fully subscribed to that bullshit. Kind of depends how far you get up into that ideology, but they're all part of that movement regardless. I think that's what you see with like Trumpism. People just have this weird idea of like all the Nazis were just these evil people who all hated Jews and like they were all like this like uniform. It's like like movements don't function like that. They just don't. And but Trumpism is no different. Like there's some like 90% of people are just like there for the fucking ride. And you probably have like another like 8% who are like, you know, really convinced of like the palingenic myth, and then like the 2% who are like committed like fucking fascists going on in a movement like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know,
like
man. He seemed like his messages seem to be like very palingenetic, right? If he says "Make America Great Again," I cannot think of a better example.
Yeah,
like palingenesis.
that actually used to be on the palingenetic ultranationalist page. You used to say "see also," and I see also they had "Make America Great Again." I think it got removed eventually, but it was pretty.
Isn't it just like the most like boilerplate like? It's a word, like regressive slogan.
Well, yeah, but the palingenetic myth is about like the rebirth of a nation by returning to your mythologized past of
okay.
So
yeah,
that's why it fits in that mold. So you're correct, but like the reason you're correct is because it affirms to the definition of that.
Yeah, so something I'm maybe a little confused on is if you were to go through all these points, and there's so many. What would be the prescription at the end of it that you'd want people to take away?
Like
not necessarily the video, but
you that, oh, you mean with the Vaush thing?
Oh, so like
yeah, not
so
just
like,
the
okay,
video,
so,
but just any browser.
So the greater point, like some people have asked me like, so why would you make this video about Vaush specifically?
Right.
It's like honestly at this point, what I want is to never hear his fucking name again. Like I'm over it. Like I just have to finish the video first, but like I don't even care about him anymore. The broader
what
point,
do you think society should do though?
So that's what I'm saying. So the broader point is like, oh fuck, what did I just do? I just deleted something. Shit. Sorry, I was looking through my script and I don't know. I undid it. Anyway, so like the political discourse is incredibly toxic, and basically everyone believes a high level of misinformation, depending on which side you're on. And there's like this really, really, really thick layering of people thinking that the other side is just completely fucking evil. Like what GKR just said sounds about right to me. It's like there's a number of people in the Republican Party that are fascist. Most of them are just cringe lords. Like they have fucking snake posters, you know, and they like read Ayn Rand novels, and they like believe they're some kind of romantic hero or something, and they want to pay taxes. They aren't like a militia of KKK people. They're just fucking idiots. And it's not like people on the left are any different. But like both of them believe these extreme like fucking ideas about the other party that are just not true. And it's true about the politicians. It's not true about the fucking population. I mean, like trying to stop the dehumanization is part of it. Critiquing his incredibly bad morality is part of it. Trying to give people a more helpful lens to view the world through is part of it. Like a lot of the ways that's a section that's kind of hard to explain without going into it. But like Vaush frames things in a way that encourages people to like externalize all of their problems in a way that's really, really unhealthy.
Well, I think what I have a problem with is the extent to which he does otherizing without deprogramming. And I think you can use otherizing rhetoric to effectively motivate people to understand the stakes of like the political like environment you're in. I think that's just good rhetoric to an extent. But I think you need to have that moment where you just step back and be like, hey guys, listen, you know, at the end of the day, our enemy is like the systems. Like I think Michael Brooks probably put this best. I think it was you'd be brutal towards systems and like decent towards people. You know, you always be kind to like these people even if you hate them, because like when you lose like the humanity you feel towards, you know, your fellow citizens or the people you're near, whether you agree politically or not, is when that's when you lose the fucking plot. When it's not worth preserving that life, or like that's just that, or like the people who are around you, and your political ends like overachieve that, like that's when you're gone, you know. And
let me get this. Yeah, look. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just kind of talking to myself.
Oh,
yeah, I think the quote was like, "Yeah, be brutal towards systems, but compassionate towards people." I think is this quote. I miss Michael Brooks. Oh man.
Yeah, he was a good hombre. He was a smart fucking dude.
Like if you read what's in chat, like there are a lot of people that actually believe this, like unironically. Like every single conservative is evil. They're the Ku Klux Klan. There's no different than people during Jim Crow laws, people throwing rocks at black kids when they integrated the schools. Like people actually believe this. And like if people actually believe this, there's like no hope of having a conversation at all. I mean, like people see each other as being fundamentally evil. You can't like part of the reason I'm bothered is because I've had a lot of success moving conservatives on things, just framing issues differently. It's not even that hard for me, but so much of the rhetoric is just like needlessly incendiary.
That right there, I don't think there's any context that makes that quote look better, unless he says, "I don't mean anything I'm about to say for this next paragraph." Like the
video opens on that.
I'm joking. Like I understand what he's getting at to a certain extent. Like I do think that like this mindless hive of conservatives are like drifting us towards an authoritarian hellscape, but oh man, I feel like it's more like a social malaise than it is like an active hatred. I don't know, man. And that active, it's complicated. I don't think he's like entirely off base there, but I think he's wrong to just seemingly place all the blame at like the average conservative. Like if you have a conservative friend, sorry, they're part of the problem. It's like, well, yeah, they are like in a very literal sense part of the problem. Like stop voting for fucking conservatives. But how do we address that problem?
Let's take immigration as an example. So I haven't finished doing all the research, but from what I can tell, conservatives are just wrong about the facts. Like the main reason they seem to be afraid of immigration from Mexico is because they're afraid of crime, and Hispanic people seem to be like the safest people. Like I remember this from looking at prison databases. Like we always categorize things white, black, and other regardless of the state because there's just no Hispanic people in like prison compared to the population. They seem to be, generally speaking, pretty well behaved. My friend did GIS mapping of different cities, and according to him, the Hispanic areas are usually the safest areas in like any given city. And it just seems to be objectively wrong. And then so like,
but have you seen that one study by John Lott?
Yeah, like the Pew Research they did a study that was like comparing Republican sentiment about the wall compared to distance from the wall, and the closer people were to the border, the more they were opposed to the wall, because like that's where Hispanic people live. You know, I think a lot of it is just being afraid of Hispanic people because they don't know them.
Well, you could even compare this to like how the people in these like rural areas like are deathly afraid of cities. People in cities are usually pretty fine with them. The closer you are to cities, you'll have some shit to say about it. Maybe like, oh, you know, the crime is bad or it smells there or whatever. But like, you don't view it as this like place of pure like chaos. Like people, they're like, oh, you know, all these cities are burning down, and it's like, oh, I remember like there's a funny quote that like New York and LA are burning, and like my family literally lives like in like right outside New York City, and my sister lives in Los Angeles. It's like, bro, these places are fucking fine. You know, there are some protests, some shit gets damaged, but like, are these places torched and uninhabitable? Like, no. You can scare people who don't live near these things into believing shit like that.
I lived in like the really bad part of town for like 3 years, and it was like there was like two things that happened the whole time, like kind of vaguely near me, right? And it's like, okay, well, like we need to address that, but like if you try and make that sound like living in this area is, you know, you're like it's a battle for your life. No, it's not. It's a suburb. You know?
Well, but this is caused by like the otherizing of like cities by like conservative rhetoric and conservative like politicians, and they do this specifically to like foment fear in this base to create this minoritarian rule that we're living under, and that's what's fundamentally scary and what's fundamentally fascist about like the Trump movement or whatever or Trumpism. Is that like they're just content at getting power at any cost, and like their whole point is fuck you. Like they've never been any more clearly like a party without any sort of idea, you know.
That's another thing is that like, so I think you'll agree with this. The Republican lawmakers don't really buy into any of the axiomatic bullshit about like conservative ideology. They don't give a fuck. Like you said, it's just about power. But like the Republican voters do buy into those axiomatic beliefs, but then they also have like these contradictory beliefs. You know, like they'll have all these libertarian ideas, and then they'll kind of tacitly support the drug war. And like if you talk to them about that and you just push a little bit, just like gently, and being like, well, you're really big about like personal liberty and like not, you know, having illegitimate uses of state power, right? Like, do you think it's okay that the police running around looking at people for like weed? Like, you can move them on that. But like, if you open the conversation with like fucking ACAB, like you just never. There's like the conversation is permanently closed.
I'll never advocate
permanently
for
closed.
opening a conversation like that. Okay, you know, meet people where they are and try and drag them to somewhere more reasonable is usually where I'll try and start or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the problem though, is that like enough people are saying crazy shit that like conservatives are just kind of like on edge.
Listen,
right? So are fucking people.
I'd be lying to you, know, I don't wish I could just snap my fucking fingers and the Trumpism thing would fucking disappear. But like, you know, it's just.
It goes both ways, though. Like, if a conservative is going to say some shit about, like, I don't know, about trans people or whatever, right? They also know they're, like, towing the line, right?
Okay, understand. I'm not just defending conservatives. Like, I'm a sock them. I understand they're wrong about almost everything, all right? I just think that, like, yeah, if we're gonna like, if things are going to move in a positive direction, like we need to not think that like half the country is SJWs and the other half is Nazis. It's just you can't have a conversation.
You know what's disingenuous about the whole like immigration thing? That just always has like stuck in my head forever, which is that most people who are illegal immigrants who overstay for over a year, they're from visas, right? Work visas, and the majority of those people are Canadians, and you never hear anyone talk about Canadians who are illegal stealing jobs.
That's my actually pet issue. I want to build a wall on the northern border and deal with these snow motherfuckers that smell like maple syrup.
Yeah, I was like, wait,
coming down here and clogging up the coffee shops.
So I just don't ever hear about anyone talking about building the snow wall, and I just was
in Game of Thrones, I had so much fun talking about the fucking others up there, the fucking wildlings up in the goddamn north.
Yeah, I just think that the focus on it being Mexican people is like kind of, you know, not actually reality, right?
It doesn't, but at the same time,
almost like brown hordes are the motivating influence.
Hold on a second, I have a bunch of sources. So like it like you're true, but Republicans are also not as opposed to immigration as you might think on certain issues. Like they're really in favor of the wall.
Well, like
half of them are in favor of DACA.
Well, they'll always just scream. Well, I don't you're right. It's just like the problem is they don't vote on like the more reasonable beliefs because they're motivated by like the crazy wedge issues. They're like, oh, they're here doing crime. Like they're just always going to believe that. I don't think you can really change their mind on shit like that.
So it's not okay, but immigration isn't even their top issue. Like, that's one of the things I looked at was trying to find polls, and there's unfortunately not very many of them of like a list of like political priority by party. I can only find like 4 good sources. But it's immigration's not the number one issue. It's like 3 or 4. A solid third of the party doesn't give a fuck about it at all.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge deal. It's just sometimes it get people riled up, but I don't think it's ever one of their biggest concerns. Usually, like the single issue, like conservative voters are usually really motivated by like abortion and guns.
Yeah, I think
it's an issue I'm forgetting. I don't remember what it is.
I think it's kind of like if you watch the debates, the Democratic primary debates from 2020. Like there was that one time where they asked about like open borders, and like every single person there was like, yeah, I want open borders, which is like a wildly unpopular position. But the thing is that most people in the Democratic Party like me just kind of don't give a fuck about immigration that much. And like the people who really care about it all want open borders. So like if the politicians get up and say, yeah, we support open borders, someone like me is like, I don't give a okay, whatever. Like I don't give a shit. I want healthcare, right? And then like the people who really want open borders get the support. So like that's kind of like, I think it's sort of the same thing in the opposite direction. It's like there's maybe like 10-20% of the Republican base that really cares about immigration, you know, and it like really gives a fuck about the wall and the travel ban and shit like that. I think a lot of them just don't really care that much, or they care way more about taxes or whatever.
I don't think most Republicans care that much about like the taxes. That's not beef for them. That's them. That's for the politicians and donors. The Republicans were literally told like, if you don't pass this fucking tax bill, so we pay less, we're cutting off the fucking money by like multiple donors, like billionaire donors.
My impression from talking to them is they care about taxes a lot. Even the ones that are poor.
Well, they want like they want like their taxes lower, maybe, but I don't think they care about like rich. Like you can ask the question of like, do you think rich people should pay more in taxes? And most people say yeah too, including Republicans.
They also think that have been convinced that they've been convinced that if you raise taxes on like businesses, there will be less jobs. So they think that it'll trickle down to them, as in like, I can't find a job, and it's because businesses can't afford to hire.
Yeah,
They just make up stuff like that. I'm just
a lot
saying.
of that's ignorance. Like I assumed that the labor costs, like the labor cost of restaurants, from what I looked up, was about 20%, which would mean that like if you raise the minimum wage like $10 an hour, it only increase, like only 20% of that would be felt in the price necessarily. I had no idea. I had assumed the labor cost of like a restaurant would be way higher. I still don't understand how that's the case because I've worked in restaurants and I can kind of like figure out where money's going, and it's like, how is only 20% of it going to labor? It seems crazy.
Rent, probably.
Yeah, I mean rent, but
also the margin on food is like, it's good, but it's not, it's not.
Isn't food margin like 50% or something usually?
Yeah, there's a lot of waste. Yeah.
It depends. Like when I worked at like a shitty like fast food place, the margin is like 50%. When I worked at like an upscale pizza place, the margin was like 70% or something. It was like,
right. Yeah.
Selling a pizza for $30. Like how much does it cost to make a pizza?
Depends on the labor.
Yeah.
I guess for them. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be real. Most people aren't really like researching anything. Like anyone who looks up a single study, you're already like the 1%.
That's what annoys me, is like I consider myself ignorant and I know more than everyone. Like I don't get it. Yeah, I think I'm fucking clueless about like politics.
Oh, I just remembered a fun fact from the whole like Bush v. Gore decision too. I forgot about this. Their rationale for telling them to stop, like the Supreme Court, when they've issued there were two like Bush v. Gore cases. The first one was where they told the Florida to stop doing their recount after the Florida Supreme Court said do the recount, and then the Supreme Court was like no, don't do the recount. Their justification for that was that you'd have like what's the term? I think it's like irreversible harm. And irreversible harm's like if I'm like, hey, I'm going to destroy this like rare piece of china that's irreplaceable, and you would put a halt on something like that because you're like, wait, once you do that, there's no going back. Saying that like counting the votes would be irreversible damage, that's why you need to like stop, is like just a completely asinine thing. Like what irreversible damage can come from counting votes? And the answer is none. The irreversible damage then would be what if Gore got ahead? That was the irreversible damage that they needed to stop happening, because they wanted to stop the count while Bush was up. Because then, like, if they could just delay the clock, then they could just be like, oh, actually, Bush won. Or, sorry, I guess Bush won. We ran out of time, guys, and he was ahead by 200 votes, so it is what it is, Like, that's the whole game they were fucking playing. Like, it's just crazy that they would stop a recount, like, multiple times in this respect in such a bad faith manner. And it's for a specific outcome. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I think it was a mask off moment for sure.
Well, I think it's a mask off moment in terms of realizing like how politicized the court is. Like they've done a good job maintaining this like mythology around like, oh, like what's his name? Like I just call balls and strikes. It's like you're full of fucking shit, man. You're a bunch of partisan hack fucking losers, and you always have been, and you always fucking will be.
Well, the court was you know about the origin of the Supreme Court, like the whole story of that, the inception of it.
I do not.
Oh, you don't? It's really cool. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but like all it is like the Supreme Court essentially forced itself to be a third branch of government.
Oh, you mean like Marbury versus Madison or whatever? Or
yeah, but they did so in like a way that basically forced themselves to be that way. Like they appointed themselves the power to do it. Like
you mean like the judicial review thing, right?
Yeah, so like they were like,
oh, okay, yeah, I knew that.
They basically were never designed to be a third branch, and then they like did a power grab and became a third branch because of like they controlled all the courts.
Well, I think it was like they were always a third branch. It's just like they didn't really have any meaningful power, and they just kind of
not Cowico one,
yeah. And Marbury versus Madison, where they're like, we're taking this for ourselves, and then everyone's just like, yeah, that seems fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty. But I was just saying, like, even from the inception of the Supreme Court, it was always about like controlling power and being politicized almost the whole time.
If you ever talk to like some crazy libertarians, they'll always be like, fuck, they bitch about something to do with the Supreme Court. I can't remember what it was. I think it was. There's one specific thing they bitch about, and they're like, see, look, Thomas Jefferson wrote all these letters complaining about it. It's like, yeah, because Marbury versus Madison, that case fucked him over. That's why he was so fucking butthurt about the Supreme Court for like decades afterwards. And they'll like quote these letters like, you see, like Thomas Jefferson didn't intend the Supreme Court to have. We actually specifically about judicial review. They're like, see, Thomas Jefferson didn't intend them to have that. It's like, well, yeah, no, of course he's butthurt and hasn't shut the fuck up about it until he died, because that case was against him, and he was mad about it.
Serious question. What percent of the U.S. population do you think could answer like basic questions about their most important policy positions? So not like everything, but like if you were to ask someone, like what are your top 3 issues? How many people could just answer like basic questions?
10%.
I think most people could give you things that they care about, but I don't think that they could actually give you policy positions that they're like looking into or.
Yeah.
I think there's actually
that's all I meant. I don't know why
yeah.
Darth Bane's like memeing this quote. Like I don't think there's anything actually objectionable about that.
I think the idea of like, oh, we think that the population should be more versed in politics or whatever. Like, I think that's actually like a bad position to have. Do you agree with that or disagree?
I think people should be meaningfully engaged in politics. I think like engaging with your community, particularly at a local level, is where like value and meaning come from in life. So I think we should have more people engaged, but I think that process involves not like, during COVID, everyone's just stuck at home reading fucking Twitter, right? Like having some meaningful way to like engage in the political system where like you can like have impact. And that probably involves fundamentally having some sort of like, local politics that then bleed upward, like
do you think that there's ever a universe where like 50% of people or 20% or even like any sizable percentage of people like are versed in their own policies? Do you think that's like achievable for
it's probably never going to be like 100. I'd like to think you could probably get it to like 30, 40, 50% or something like that, maybe 60.
Whoa.
Do you want my hottest take?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Universal suffrage is a bad idea, and uneducated people shouldn't vote.
I saw this one coming a mile away.
Okay.
No wonder you like that Supreme Court decision.
I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that I want more direct democracy, and I want dumb people that have no fucking idea what they're talking about not voting.
Uneducated is a hard one.
You want less direct democracy, dude.
Well, the problem is,
who do we decide who's like too dumb to vote?
So here's the thing: there's no practical way to do this. I'm not saying this should actually happen. Sure. It's just like if democracy was going to be a serious thing, this is probably what should happen. You should have some form of like tests that would just make sure you know things. And like my idea would be like you could just give out the answers and you just memorize them.
Listen, how about only landowners get to vote? Let's do that. That sounds like
everyone makes that comparison, but it's not ridiculous. I mean, like the situation we have now is that you just admitted that 90% of the voting population is basically stumbling in and checking random boxes and leaving. I mean, like I don't understand how it's a controversial. Like everybody will agree, yeah, no one has any fucking idea what they're talking about. And then I say this, and everyone's like, "Bro, how could like?"
I try to make this point to people about like when Joe Biden like won the. Like as a Bernie supporter, like going into fuck Super Tuesday, I was like, Bernie lost. And the reason I was pretty sure Bernie was fucked was because people are idiots. And there's this Biden, they're like, yo, Biden's back. He's back. Our man's back. We're riding with Biden. He crushed it in South Carolina. No one could have seen it coming.
He was like 4th and 5th. Oh my God, he was so dead.
Yeah, well,
poor fucking South Carolina.
Well, but those were two really rough places where he was expected to do shitty and then somehow did worse. In South Carolina, he was supposed to blow that the fuck out. Like there was no question that he was going to blow that out. But media did this weird, stupid hype train thing for like 3 days until Super Tuesday, and then you had the dropouts and the endorsements. And
what do you think about Destiny's take that the fucking 2020 media coverage wasn't unfair to Bernie?
I think that's
pretty sure that's a brand take.
That's fucking insane, right? I remember watching the news and it was just like there was one time where like I think it was New Hampshire. Like they were reporting the New Hampshire results and they just left him off. He like got first place and they just fucking left him off. And they reported like 2 through 10 or something.
There's a funny some more news video on that, which in hindsight is kind of sad because they're talking like in it. They're sort of like Bernie's winning, where they keep talking about like Klobuchar did better than expected. Warren came in a solid second.
Yeah, dude, fucking Pete Buttigieg in a strong 4th. Like
yeah, and like they're always just leaving out like who's number 1.
Oh my God!
Everything they can do to just. All these other people have really strong finishes that are in first place, but like, who is in first place? How could we know? And they had like one graphic that put Bernie at like the bottom, even though like the numbers indicate he should be at the top or something.
Yeah,
do you think this might be a mistake?
It's actually unreal, dude.
Do you think this might be a mistake rather than like bad intent.
I mean,
I don't
there's also
know.
that
It's
thing
also
where Chris
First place
Matthews is
winner of
like,
the debate
Honestly,
you're covering as a news agency.
you're
Yeah,
get-
probably.
Whoa.
Here's the thing. I was
Sorry.
in a server with a bunch of conservatives, and they all thought it was fucking crazy how bad media
I mean,
coverage was for him. Like they could see it. I don't know how
I
Destiny
don't
can't see it.
think you care about that, right? Like, I mean, they might say it, but like, I don't really care if they think it. Them to like give a substantive argument, right? That I value that a little bit more, but you know.
well, I think that it's very easy to understand why they would be against him, right? Like any sort of like establishment Democrat, right? Like Bernie Sanders is an existential threat in this respect, right? You know, if Trump wins,
that's what you'd expect.
you get 4 more years of opposition. If some centrist Democrat wins, well, hey man, we all got positions in the administration, right? And we get these cozy fucking interviews, right? Bernie Sanders wins, like he basically said, like fuck all you fucking insiders, right? He's not gonna put like I don't know, these like, these Obama people back into charge. He's gonna be like, no, I'm gonna get all these people who, you know, ideologically agree with me and have this specific project in mind. And you have all these Democratic like fucking people who are just fucking get put out to pasture. And like they literally can't abide by that, right? Like you're literally seeing your entire career that you've built up for yourself, like could disappear over one administration because of some like massive ideological shift. Like you could argue maybe the same thing for Trump if you thought he was like genuine, like, oh fuck all these corrupt Republicans, blah blah blah. You know, I'm here to help you. What?
I don't think Trump had a political philosophy. I also kind of believe the idea that he didn't think he was going to win.
Well,
I kind of believe that.
I agree with that. Well, he did. I'm saying he talked up a game in that respect. So like Republicans were like, oh man, he won. Like we're so fucked, right? They were so skittish and they were scared. And then like when he got in, he was just like, bro, I don't want to do this. Just you guys put in charge of everything. But like, I do not believe for a second that Bernie would have been like, oh man, I can't believe I won. Can someone handle this for me? Right? Like, he had fucking plans and he had fucking ideas who would want to impact a specific ideology.
I don't necessarily have confidence that Bernie would have been successful. I kind of expect it would have been like what's that dude's name? Jimmy Carter. I think it would have been like maybe a Jimmy Carter situation where he just wouldn't have been able to do that much because everybody else in the government fucking hate him. But like, I mean, he would have at least tried.
I think I value the rhetorical shifts a lot. I think when you have like, I think the bully pulpit's something we really undervalue. Like you can think about how our perspectives on, well, you know stuff about criminal justice, how our perspectives on, you know, incarceration and criminal justice reform changed over, you know, 8 years of Reagan, 8 years of Nixon and Ford or whatever, into like 4 years of Carter, into like 12 years of more Republicans, into Clinton, right? From having that bully pulpit for basically like 20 of those years, they created the messaging and put in people's minds how we should view about crime, how we should view unions, how we should view all of these things. Having Bernie Sanders, I'm saying you can't undervalue how you can implant these ideas in people's head just by being a loud person who is the center of attention. And having Bernie Sanders as that loud person who's the center of attention, you're just going to normalize other ideas. That are much further left than like anything else you would have gotten. Would he have achieved everything he wanted? I mean, from an executive level, he could have done a lot. There's a report. I can't remember his name.
The executive order Medicare for all shit.
Well, it's not just I don't know about that. But they had
That was like the spiciest one I saw. It was like some plan for him to get Medicare for all through executive action.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like a gross abuse of power, but whatever, dude, do it. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. There was David Dane. That's who it is. David Dane had like a thing on his website. He runs like a think tank or something, and it was like all of these things that can be done through executive action, which included like the student loan forgiveness. That's where I think that really got legs from. He had a whole bunch of things. I think he had dozens or maybe like 100 different things that he could do day one through executive action, and like these are like sweeping, crazy things that the president has power to do. And he's
you can do it. You can do it. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, and they're like, this is what he could do. It's like, would he get as much done legislatively as Biden? I mean, probably not. Maybe he would have gotten like the COVID package, and maybe would have gotten some other shit, but I don't know.
How's Biden been doing recently? Because I know initially he did a lot.
Well, he's doing like this infrastructure thing, and I don't know if Bernie. I don't know. Maybe he would have been able to. I don't really know. I don't want to say he would have.
Still has the same amount of leverage, whether Biden is president or Bernie is.
Well, I don't. Well, like
people
I said,
also like to mention.
Well, I think legislation is important, but I think also like changing people's attitudes and how people understand how government works for them is something that Bernie Sanders would have achieved a lot in, right? Because he's just as much of an activist as he's a politician in that respect, where he's normalizing like different ways to think about stuff, like getting people on board with the idea that government can help you. Like
Wait,
he literally
that's-
says the exact last thing. The exact contrast to like the Reagan thing, like the 14 scariest words or whatever is hi, I'm here from the hi, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you or whatever. He's the exact contrast to that. The antithesis to that idea that's dominated conservatism for the past like 40 fucking years of my life. Well, I'm only 31, but whatever.
Yeah, my man Bernie, dude. Rip. Pour out a little fucking.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
ask
that's
you,
fun.
were you a Bernie supporter?
Oh yeah, I've donated like I thought I donated 500 to his campaign. I checked; it was only 200, so now I feel bad.
I donated like 500.
Yeah, I thought I did, dude. I fucking like I had money at the time. I feel bad.
Yeah, oh, whatever. I mean, hey, at least you have $300 more than you thought you did.
No. Well, I also lost a bunch of money gambling on Bernie Sanders on Super Tuesday. God damn.
Oh, that hurts.
That fucking sucked. I didn't really hedge to where like I wouldn't lose that much unless he just got completely clean sweeped and then
Sorry, I'm at work, so I was talking to a client real quick. I was just asking, wait, so you were a Bernie supporter, right? And your name is Doomer Politics. I read or heard somewhere something about basically after Bernie's like loss, like what are some takeaways? And I'm sure there's a bunch of takeaways, but one of them that I was like super blackpilled was like watching Bernie get slaughtered by the media basically and completely ignored and thrown under the bus for being a threat to, I guess, the status quo, let's say, was like his campaign at the end of the day for a lot of people, I think just solidified the fact that someone like Bernie cannot win from within. It's not going to happen, you know?
No,
I mean,
that was like a doomer. So I don't actually know if I believe that, but I mean that's like a doomer takeaway I got from the whole thing was like this Bernie's not going to happen from within the Democratic Party. Like that's
okay. So like the problem is that there's no other good person right now. Like I think that AOC is unelectable in a presidential sense, and I can't think of another Democrat. But then again, we didn't know who the fuck Obama was before Obama showed the fuck up. He was just like, oh, here's this guy, and he's like the fucking best politician ever. So I don't know. I mean, like you would need somebody else that's like charismatic. But Bernie Sanders' campaign in most ways was really, really inspiring. And like I already was blackpilled in the media. I already knew what was going to happen there.
Dude,
that's what I mean.
I'd
It was
have
like
Nina
I feel
Turner
like
for president. I would take it.
You take what?
No, that's what I mean. Like I feel like
Nina
after.
Turner.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just trying to answer this, but Nina Turner. I think she could be a future
Nina
president.
Turner has a decent shot, yeah.
You're right. No, but I just feel like that was like a takeaway that I don't know if I believe it, but I feel it where I'm like, oh man, you actually really can't do this from within, huh? Like,
Listen, that's what they want you to believe.
They're not gonna let it happen. That's like a takeaway that's like
Listen,
I feel like it's stuck in my fucking brain.
They're terrified.
Unironically, the best thing you could do is what Destiny did, and Destiny's right. They have less power than people think. Part of it is just that everyone's apathetic and people don't engage in shit.
The biggest thing they get you to think is that you can't do anything, right? Like that's their strongest tool, convincing you like, oh, the system can't change. It is what it is. There's nothing we could do. It's like, if you look at the history of this country, like think of how much shit has changed. We went from like, robber barons to like one of the most egalitarian distributions of wealth that like the world has ever fucking seen to back to this hellscape we're in now, right? And this is over like 80 fucking years. This is over 80 fucking years.
You're I know. No, you're right. Yeah.
You're telling me we're at this magic point where nothing can change? It's like, fuck that. We can do it again.
Yeah,
it's coming. It's coming. And it's either it happens or we all die. So I figure you might as well try it because we're doomed either way. So
wait, what happened? Did Nina
win? You gotta work within the system, though. That's my.
Didn't Nina just have an election?
I don't think it's happened yet. I donated like $40 to her.
Oh shit.
She's running for the Marsha Fudge, I think her name is. She was.
I don't know any of these motherfuckers' names. It's in Ohio, right?
Yeah. Marsha Fudge was nominated for HUD, Housing Urban Development, because Biden has wanted to make a. She didn't even want HUD, which I think is funny. He's like, you're a black lady, we'll put you in HUD. Like the same joke that people made about what's his name, the fucking sleepy dude.
Sleepy Joe.
Ben Carson. No, Ben Carson. They're like, that's Trump's only black friend, so they put him in charge of housing and urban development. But it's not fair to Levy Biden because, like,
Ben Carson was so weird. He's like a neurosurgeon, but also like a moron. Like I don't get it.
Yeah.
Where he just
It's like
talks
the smartest
about
dumb person.
he nearly killed somebody, but a belt buckle stopped him from committing murder, and that's why he's a doctor.
Yeah, that was such a weird.
I don't know.
That was so weird.
I don't know. Yeah, because I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 24, so the whole politics thing was like through high school, and then Bernie first announced. So I don't know where you guys are from, but I'm from New England. So when Bernie announced he was running in New England, it was like a big deal. So you know, we all went to his like first rallies and stuff really early on. And I was like, I think for most people, like I feel like a lot of young people really got involved in politics. It's like in this the last 2 to 3 election cycles. So that was a big doomer moment, I think, for me. It was, you know, you obviously read things like manufacturing consent and some other stuff, but then to actually watch it happen in 2 election cycles, like in your face, oh man, that was a tough pill to swallow, you know?
You also have to understand
it didn't work. It didn't work. He didn't get the young votes he needed, right? That's the problem with Bernie. I'm pretty sure I read articles.
Like this is, I mean, this is.
So there's
you don't try and win on the young. Young people aren't going to vote. You don't.
Well,
try
yeah,
and
no, I agree, but also like, it's also really easy to just go, yeah, Bernie didn't like win anyone or didn't get the young vote, didn't get the right votes that he needed. But it's like, okay, yeah. So you can make the absolute statement, but then I'm interested in why.
Well, see, he still almost won. So okay, here's a question I have. I'm curious you guys' take, because I have a very strong opinion on this. What happens on Super Tuesday if Elizabeth Warren had dropped out one day before?
I think Bernie takes it, dude. There's no way. She absolutely split.
No way.
She's split.
I remember looking at the votes, just like Elizabeth Warren's votes. Like, it was. Because like Bernie didn't get slaughtered everywhere. He got slaughtered some places, but a lot of places he lost by like a little bit. And like Elizabeth Warren had more fucking. It was.
Well, it's only because they split.
If she dropped, then Bernie probably won like 3 more states or 4 more states on Super Tuesday, and he would have crushed it.
It's only because they split the progressive vote, or split the progressive idea where. You know, I knew a lot of people that were Bernie supporters, but then when Elizabeth Warren started running, I knew people that were like, "Oh, Elizabeth Warren is running," and like a lot of people that I knew, you know, from school and stuff.
Nothing triggers me more than Warren supporters, dude. Nothing.
Yeah,
triggers
it was.
I'm more bothered by Warren supporters than Trump supporters. To be real with you.
Why?
Because it's like fucking voting for Jill Stein in the Democratic primary. Like she can't win, and like if you care about this policies. Go for the person who can fucking win. Like, aside from the fact that she's totally fucking untrustworthy, I mean, she's basically Bernie Sanders but shittier and has a vagina. I mean, like it's just
No, I disagree completely. Warren has quite a lot of experience in the finance sector, but it's like she had a lot of similar points, but a completely different background.
I mean, in terms of her appeal, she was going for the progressive vote.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
What's weird is that but like the second choice for a lot of Biden voters was also Bernie too. So like a lot of people had Bernie as their second choice, even if it wasn't their primary, which is
Biden should dropped out, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fucking there was like at one point there was a poll on ranked choice voting, and they got voter preference in order, and it was so fucking weird. People would be like, they'd be like Biden number 1, Bernie number 2, fucking Amy Klobuchar number 3. It's like, what the fuck? So incoherent.
Listen, just realize even they're like people think like the people who vote in primaries are all paying attention and they already have these ideas, and the truth is they didn't. The point I was gonna make before was that the media blitz between the South Carolina win and Super Tuesday, I think they said like the people who voted on that Super Tuesday, like I think it was like it was like 3 out of 4 of them decided the day of, and it's like, bro,
it's so
why do we even bother having this shit last for like fucking months? What was the point?
True. I would when you show up to the ballot for the people that work.
Here's a serious question. Why can't we just steal a fucking election for once? Can we just do that? Can we figure out what the Republicans are doing and fucking steal one for Bernie? Come on, man.
When did the Republicans ever steal an election?
Well, yeah, but the establishment would never steal it for him. That's the problem there.
Wait, which
Democrats
elections that
are
Republicans do?
I mean like us. Like let's go like find a polling station in a place where people aren't going to vote for Bernie. I don't know, take a crap, get shut down. I don't know. What do you guys do?
You can get sued for saying.
And he's still an
I
election.
presume.
You can what?
I'm pretty sure you can get sued for saying this.
I mean, I'm obviously joking.
Yeah, in a video game.
In Minecraft.
Yeah,
In a
I'm
polling
pretty sure
place in
interfering
Minecraft.
with election procedure is a pretty big crime. A bit like interfering with postal services,
No, I mean, you're probably right.
Yeah. I think y'all are reading a little too much into the media being unfair to Bernie, to be honest. But
I mean, like them,
was
hold on,
pretty
them
bad.
them being unfair. Wait, hold on. Wait, them
think
being
you're seeking a
unfair
reason.
doesn't mean that they're always unfair.
I didn't know that this was like a contested fact. Yeah.
And I mean, I contested somewhat. Yes.
I mean, okay, I can rattle off a bunch of different things that happened that were just like nuts. Like, first of all, I didn't hear them compliment Bernie like ever. I mean, like he won 3 states in a row, and like they were like it's just like everybody else was saying. They'd be like Pete Buttigieg in a strong fourth, Amy Klobuchar really rounding out second or whatever, and like they just never would talk about Bernie at all. He won. What are you talking about? He won 3 states. Well, I guess the fucking Iowa shit's pretty contested. He won like
okay, maybe that's not my biggest problem. I think your biggest problem is like seeking the reasons for that and matching those up. Like I think that's where the problem lies. I think it's more like them making mistakes more likely than somebody being intentionally against him. Like I don't even have to disagree with like the reasons, but I don't think those necessarily will lead to the media coverage that you saw.
I mean, there's like a bunch of different things. There's the fact that they didn't compliment him. There was all the weird shit with graphs. It wasn't just one instance. There was like a bunch of times information with graphs.
The problem with the graphs, I can address a little bit. Like some of those were not even misreported. Like you mentioned that New Hampshire shit. Like there's two outlets that seem to report this correctly. One of the graph shit was like Bernie being at the bottom, and then what I presume is a mistake by the person reporting on it, not seeing Sanders at the top. Maybe the reporter expected Sanders at the top too, right? It's really easy to make a mistake there.
It just accidentally happened in like every newscast for like the entire primary cycle. Like,
I don't think it happened every newscast. Like there's a difference between saying it happened everywhere. You think it happened everywhere? I don't think that's true. Like,
I mean, like I was tuned into fucking Bernie social media.
The
Like
amount
every day we
of
would see some
Bernie
clips.
Sanders got.
I'm gonna look up some more pictures like the New Hampshire one. Okay.
No, can you?
You're cutting out for me.
Somebody look up the amount of. Okay, my bad.
There was also stuff like that dude saying that Bernie Sanders supporters were like brown shirts. Like I don't know, man. There was a bunch of fucking.
What?
Like GKR, you remember this shit, right? Like I'm not like crazy, right?
Yeah, it was Chris. No, not Chris Wallace. Chris Matthews. It was just like, oh, if Bernie wins, we're gonna have the red shirts and the or brown shirts and the hanging people in Central Park or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Who is
Like,
that guy though?
I'm not implying that like the media coverage was bad enough to like steal the election. I'm just saying that it was very obvious they had a bias.
Isn't that dude not like a conservative or something? Like Chris Matthews? I don't know. Or is he a Democrat? I have no idea.
Who?
Chris Matthews?
Oh,
the dude that talked about the brown shirts.
I mean, it's like the fucking Chomsky thing, right? Like you can kind of make assumptions about political views just based on the fact that somebody has a high position in media. They're not going to support Sanders.
Yeah, I agree. True. I feel like Bernie was like my first real life example of watching manufactured consent happen in real time, and it blew my mind.
Yeah, I mean the fucking Iraq war was pretty goddamn bad too.
That's why
watching Bernie Sanders win Okay, yeah, I'm just doing the back half, and I'm going to come in and do the front half. Yep, thank you.
Brought up. Do you have some
Yeah, like
some
watching.
overarching strategy here?
I saw like I remember reading a Vox article that was pretty positive about Bernie, but
Yeah, he
comment
had
what you
some
want.
good conversations. Actually, I remember that was something he got criticized for, or fuck, that they criticized one of his campaign managers for, is that they're like, oh, we're not gonna have you do an interview with Ezra Klein, and I love Ezra Klein. I think Ezra Klein's fucking great, but they're like, yeah, we don't want to do that because he's like a fucking establishment person or whatever. Meanwhile, like one of his most like popular interviews from the 2016 cycle was with Ezra Klein, where Ezra Klein gave him like a softball nice interview, wanted to just hear about his ideas and talk to him.
Who,
Yeah,
Bernie?
yeah. Ezra Klein's interview with like Bernie Sanders in like
Isn't Ezra Klein pretty establishment? Is he like a huge Obama simp?
I don't think that's a fair characterization. He definitely got that
I
shit
have
in
no idea. That's
2016.
just what I've heard. I have no idea.
Ezra Klein. So I didn't like Ezra Klein because I had that impression of him from 2016 because he liked Hillary Clinton or whatever. But I sort of understand his perspective. He's very like policy wonky. So I guess like if that's the kind of person you are, I could see how someone like Hillary Clinton would appeal to you in 2016. But he also did like Bernie Sanders. It was pretty nice to him in like an interview and like asked him reasonable questions and treated him seriously, which I very much do respect. And Ezra Klein's great. If you ever want to see something really funny, watch him debate Sam Harris. Because I went into that like having somewhat positive feelings about Sam Harris and having pretty negative feelings about Ezra Klein. And Ezra Klein just like tooled out this dude for like 2 hours, but not in like a like dunking on someone like Destiny or Vaush. Just sort of like almost like a disappointed father when he realizes like his son just doesn't fucking get it. Because he was trying to explain like very
simple. It was like a Sam Cedar type of.
It was sort of just like a disappointment. Like they're talking about Charles Murray and shit at one point. He's like, dude, you can't like evaluate the science of like race science without taking into account like the history surrounding your discussion of this. And he's like, the science just has to stand for itself. And he's like, but like we live in a society, like you can't just like divorce these things from one another. Like that's just so irresponsible and crazy. And
Sam Harris seems really bad in conversations. Like he had that one conversation with Peterson where like in no world should that have been anything but Sam Harris steamrolling, and he just got like hard fucking stuck. And like it was just the most painful conversation.
The one where they're talking about truth?
Yeah. It was so bad.
I understand what they were both talking about. It's just a very stupid conversation.
Yeah.
Particularly be stuck on for like an hour and 45 minutes. It's just.
Hey, one more hot take from me. 99% of politics on YouTube is garbage, okay?
It's not a hot take.
So, like, Sam Harris garbage, but also philosophy to ContraPoints. Yeah, I fucking hate her. Yeah. It's for her takes, not her person, right?
What did Natalie do?
What?
What did Natalie do bad?
It's like it's a fancy video, but it's not. It doesn't really give like really deep argument. That's the same thing for like philosophy too. Like it's really fancy stuff.
Are we
okay? Okay, so let me defend Natalie.
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
Yeah, so like, okay, I agree that like if you want like a detailed policy, whatever, like Natalie's not gonna do that. But like the vast majority of people who do politics on YouTube are just like straight up fucking liars who don't know anything. And like at least Natalie doesn't fucking lie. Like
yeah, sure.
You're not gonna watch her videos and like get filled with misinformation. And like yeah, they're more focused on entertainment and shit. And it's not it's not like as serious of an atmosphere, but that's fine, right? Like it's not actively harmful in the way that almost like Vaush is like watching his videos gives me an existential crisis because it's like people fucking believe this shit.
I think
just like everything he says is fucking wrong. It's fucking
I think but the problem is what I in that case would even like more about Vaush. In that case, Vaush like will give some actual claims you can check, like the Bush stuff and like the butterfly ballots, whatever you can check that. However, like videos done by ContraPoints and Philosophy Tube usually like feature way larger themes that are way harder to like get any specific claims on. They'll cite some books, here and there, and I'm sure those work somewhat, but it's kind of hard to be like, oh, this ContraPoints video I disagree with for these reasons specifically. That's going to be way harder, I think. But Vaush is way easier because he gives a claim and it's like, oh, that's wrong. Do you get what I'm saying, or am I?
Yeah.
Just...
I get what you're saying.
Maybe,
It's
but
just,
it's
just like I have this
but
meter.
isn't it every ContraPoints video? Doesn't she always have a character that? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that like on my meter of like great to like actively harmful, like 90% of them are like actively harmful, right? Like there's nobody that's like, you know, doing detailed policy analysis. I mean, fucking Destiny might be the best informed person generally on fucking politics, and he admits he just reads Wikipedia.
Yeah, yeah. As do I. Usually, if Destiny discusses something, I'll read Wikipedia. But like, I don't think you should take it from Destiny.
What do you guys think about Sam Cedar?
What do
you guys think about Sam Cedar?
I had a chip on my shoulder about
Sam
Sam Cedar for the longest time, and with his recent stuff like dunking on Brianna Joy Gray and fucking Crater and stuff, it's like, all right, cool. I'm down with Sam Cedar.
Okay,
like,
I was just
I don't like Wikipedia. All of y'all.
Do you guys see that recent like 20-second clip where he's just like yelling at some random libertarian caller? It's really funny.
Yeah, I mean, like
Sam Cedar's libertarian debates are so good.
I think my favorite. Did you guys ever see the evil Bernie Sanders clip? If you know what I'm talking about, it's great. And if you don't, you're missing out.
Link, please.
Hold on. I'll listen.
I can't watch it now, but I'll watch it on my lunch break. So.
Yeah.
What are you guys up to today? What's up? What's going on?
Oh, do they have an animated version of this?
I'm trying to reset my sleep schedule, so I don't have much going on.
Just stay awake. Wait. Oh, okay. I see. Yeah, I see.
I'm just.
I was gonna say, isn't it like 11:30 right now? I mean, I'm on the East Coast, but
that's 10:30. Yeah, my sleep schedule was fucked. I was waking up at like 10 p.m.
That Cody dude made a video about Bernie Sanders, bro. That was some cringe shit. He said like, oh, Bernie Sanders can carry the black vote, when it was the first time since the start of the primaries that Bernie Sanders had a higher black approval rating than Biden. It's the first time, and after that, Biden's approval polls from black people are like way higher than Bernie's. That I fucking hated that.
So
it was so misleading
for the greater immoral. Just ask you one more question, Colt. You're a millennial. How? Give me.
Is that just the association to Obama, or are black voters generally speaking more conservative?
Hey, whoa. In all seriousness, can you look up two things? Read about the 1850s in Europe. You want to
follow the show?
Oh no, I
do it.
I'm talking because
this human civilization, and capitalism, people to realize.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering why that was. Like, did Biden get a bunch of support because like the association
by promising free things and by running deficits and by doing really immoral things? I want to promise people to buy wealthy poverty, and I think that's really, really important for people to realize. And as nations become very wealthy, the people at the top like to look around and sensationalize a few people at the bottom and use it to strong arm the electorate by promising people to live it out of poverty. And through voluntary cooperation, primitive. So basically, last thing takes as long as people are listening to it. And then if I don't care if you guys just trash it.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be. And there's terrible things going on. And live it out wealthy. The people at the top, the electorate, by promising free things and by running deficits and by doing really immoral things. So I want your listeners to realize that Bernie Sanders is probably the most immoral candidate doing really immoral things by promising free things and use it to strong.
They're going to vote for somebody that's sure. I don't know if you would say that they would surely beat Trump, but somebody that's more middle of the road on a lot of policies rather than.
Well, yeah, I think what I read is that like they're. Yeah.
Because
here's a question for you guys. Who do you think was?
That's a good.
King, you're breaking up really hard, buddy. I can't hear anything that you say.
Dude, who wants to watch this wonderful Bernie Sanders clip with me? Or sorry, this evil Bernie Sanders Michael Brooks thing before I go to bed. It provides me so much joy in life.
So who did you guys think was more electable in the 2016 general, Bernie or Hillary?
Bernie.
I always thought Bernie because
Hillary
like
has
the
weight.
appeal. Yeah, Hillary's just like everyone hates her, and then beyond that, Trump's main appeal was anti-establishment. Yeah, and like Bernie had the anti-establishment shit. It's been like anti-establishment has been sort of the trend in the general for a long time. Like Obama was very much an establishment candidate, but he ran as an anti-establishment candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I guess the first establishment candidate to win is Biden.
All right, my dear friends.
Fucking wow.
The establishment kind
of. Off the bed. I'll catch you later.
All right, bud.
Yeah. All right, later, guys.
See ya. Have a good one.
All right, we'll go real quick. Oh no! Did I get rid of that? I had the wrong thing up. All right.
Are so interested in maintaining the status quo. And the reason for that is because felons can't...
Oh, so this is the clip that dude was referring to. We talked about it before I started recording. But I didn't play it.
There's a reason why conservatives, like that kid, and the people who give him his money, are so interested in maintaining the status quo. And the reason for that is because felons can't vote.
Oh, hold on, we gotta go back a little bit further.
Being locked up. I've talked about this ability. If we're looking to reduce the total number of people in prison, and we're looking to make prison more humane and shit, we should also be making an effort to try and address the sociological conditions that lead to people being locked up. I've talked about this a billion times before, but if anyone wants to like improve the conditions of prison and lower the number of people who are in prison, an essential component of that is decreasing the number of people who need to be in prison. People are a product of their environment. There's no mistaking this. It is a fact of the matter. So if we improve the environment, we improve the people. Who provided me that statistic on Southern disenfranchisement?
This is the specific we're talking about. He interpreted what you're about to hear as that felons aren't allowed to vote, like full stop.
There's a reason why conservatives, like that kid, and the people who give him his money, are so interested in maintaining the status quo. And the reason for that is because felons can't vote. A lot of them felons are black, especially in the South. I don't know the exact statistics, but somebody in chat posted them. Post them again, Damage Cortex. There are some states in the South where the total number of black people who are disenfranchised and unable to vote exceeds 20% on account of prior felony convictions.
So he took this whole clip, it was about a minute and a quarter, and distilled it down to just like felons can't vote and said that's factually wrong, like ignoring all the context, talking specifically about the South. And one of the things he said when we were talking was, he goes, there's 2 states where people who are felons can vote from inside prison. But it's like, yeah, this is true. I knew that was true. It's like Vermont and New Hampshire or something where felons can vote. But it's like, in this clip, he's clearly talking about the states that do felony disenfranchisement, which are southern states. So, like, what are we talking about here? And this is the clip he says, like, oh, Vaush is just saying things that are patently false. It's like, I don't know. When you hear this in context, it really didn't seem that bad, but whatever. All right. What's done is done.